The Mania has started, and you'll find slam dunk savings and selection during our Hoop Mania event at Capital Ford in Santa Fe. We're celebrating our 60th anniversary all year long, and that means buzzer-beating incentives and special dealer offers, like a new 24 Ford Bronco Big Bend Sasquatch, lease for $499 a month. Or a new Ford F-150, now $1,500 or 2.9% APR during this Hoop Mania event at Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
I'm mute. No, wouldn't be St. Patrick's Day if I could hit you with some Dropkick Murphys. And of course, the triple hey. How's everybody doing? I think everybody probably in Lobo Land is pretty happy. And I think they lucked out, and I'll get into that later on the show. Hey, my name is Ryan Tamori. Hope everybody is well. This is the Pit Press Live, and we were going to do a show on Selection Sunday, but it kind of fell through, and everybody was doing something else, and all the Mountain West Conference teams. So I thought we're going to move to Monday night. So this is our selection show spectacular. That's a South Park joke for those who if you don't watch it, it was a South Park joke. Never mind. All right, it didn't land. And being that it's St. Patrick's Day, got to hit you with this.
Everybody get naked. Come on, don't be stuck up. It's going to be great.
Well, why not? This party's just getting started.
It wouldn't be me hosting the show without a 90s Simpsons reference either. So I hit you with The Departed and The Simpsons from the 90s. All right. Coming up here in a minute, Jeffrey Gordon. We'll talk about our bracket challenge. 710, Tom Moser. You know him as Coach Moser. Very excited to have him on. Won't just hit on the Lobos, but the Mountain West and the buzzsaw that Colorado State has turned into. Boise State gets snubbed, probably rightfully so. Because winning cures all. Utah State, I don't know, and maybe I'll get his thoughts on UNC. And then the governor of West Virginia coming out today, basically going to war with the NCAA. So fascinating day. A lot to get to. Again, Tom Moser at 7:10, 7:30. Will Weber of the Santa Fe New Mexican. Very excited to have him on. 8 o'clock. Sean Harrison from the Logan Herald Journal. I was tracking down Justin Michael, who covers Colorado State from DNVR, up obviously in Colorado and the Denver, Central Colorado and the Denver area there. Covers Colorado State. He unfortunately couldn't join us. So was looking forward to that, but I will get to one of the usual suspects. Eric will join us later. George Scott's joining us 8:20. I need to text Phil McDonald. But he's been a Lobo fan since 1970 and the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs. Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how you doing?
Good, Ryan. Quite a lot you've got to get to, and looking forward to at least talking about the Lobos in their matchup against Marquette on Friday. Marquette, I took a look at them a little bit today, and they're pretty Cam Jones. I really like watching what I saw of him. 19.3 points a game on the season, and some of the highlights Eric Moulton sent us was the great Gus Johnson calling that game, and I hadn't had a chance to hear Gus Johnson in many years.
You haven't heard Gus in many years? He's always calling the Big East.
Yeah, I don't watch the Big East that much, man. I got so many things I'm watching. It's like, yeah, I haven't heard his voice in a while, and I hear, but he was I think one of the best play-by-play guys, I think.
Oh yes, I will bring it up. It's Batista with the catch season. I'm going to go to Jeffrey Gordon, who I met I guess in college, but as I jokingly told him, I was probably too drunk to taste the chicken at the time. Jeff, how you doing? And I don't know if you're going to talk about your media journey real quick, and then I'm hoping you can join us back at the 8:30 hour to plug our bracket challenge and maybe give your thoughts on the Lobos. But how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I'm happy we finally made it work, Ryan. We had a few false starts this week, but we're on. Yeah. Like, if you want to hear about my media journey, I started as a sports reporter in Midland, Odessa. That's where Friday Night Lights was based. Did some cool stuff there. Covered Tech for a little bit. When Pat Mahomes was there, that's probably the coolest part about that. I did do some anchoring at KOB for a little bit. I was the fill-in guy. You probably never saw me. I was on Christmas and Thanksgiving. So you probably really don't remember me. I am the guy with the race car driver name, though. So maybe that is my claim to fame.
And I always asked if you went by Jeffrey or Jeff, and then you typed in Jeff right now, and you're playing with my emotions. But
I did that for you. Yeah,
I
just to throw you off.
I appreciate that. I wasn't sure how to introduce you, but I'm just going to roll with Jeff. So Jeff Gordon, fantastic race car driver. Anyway, talk to us about our bracket challenge very quickly, and then we'll get to Tom Moser. And again, if you can join us about the 8:30 time, I'd love to plug it again, man, and get your thoughts on Lobo basketball.
Yeah, so I work for a local optometry office now called Casey Optical 2. We're on the corner of Moon and Manal. We are one of the oldest or longest locally owned optometry places here in Albuquerque. We are giving away an Oakley prize pack. What is that? That's some of these. If you do win our bracket challenge, you'll get not only the frames, you'll get prescription lenses, and you'll get an exam for free. So it's a pretty good deal. And we got a lot of different styles here. We got we're closing in on 40 people on the bracket challenge right now. It's free to join. We got the links at caseyoptical2.com and thepitpress.com. So super easy. Fill out the bracket. You could even do like a quick bracket, but I know probably the people watching this show are going to want to fill that bracket out one line at a time.
We appreciate it. And if you just go to ESPN, it's the Pit Press Casey Optical 2 bracket challenge. Jeff, I'm glad you're on, and then I'm kicking you off right away. I hope you can join. I hope you can join us in about an hour to talk more about the bracket challenge and talk.
Yeah, just text me.
I will, man. Hey, thank you, dude. And I'm glad we finally did that, even though I got to kick you off right now. I feel like such a jerk, but thank you, my man.
All right. I'll see you guys soon.
Perfect. I'll text you here in a bit. All right. Thanks to Jeffrey Gordon. I'm finally glad I got him on. Now we're going to go to our first guest of the night. You know him, Top of the Mountain podcast. It still boggles my mind that the man in Delaware speaks the truth about the Mountain West Conference. His name is Coach Tom Moser. Coach, I'm going to thank, I know when I text you and I bug you, I thank you so much. How are you doing tonight?
Good. Ryan, Ed, what's up? Good to see you, fellas.
Good to see you, Coach.
Well, appreciate it. I mean, we're all UNM alumni here. I'm sometimes public enemy number one because I talk a lot of shit. I'm gonna get your reaction first, I think. Oh, my light went out. I'm gonna get your reaction first on the Mountain West Conference tournament. And you've heard a lot of national pundits in the last 24 hours talk about Colorado State, and they look like a buzzsaw. What has impressed you most? Maybe just not Nick Clifford, but what has impressed you most about what Colorado State has done down the road and 11 straight wins?
Yeah, I mean they're just like they're a coach's dream right now. You know, like you draw up and you scheme up what you want your guys to do on both ends of the floor on defense, how you're going to stay home on your guy and you're not going to gamble and you box out, and on offense you're going to make the extra pass, and you have all these great ideas on the whiteboard and in practice and in the scouting report and in film room and all that stuff. And then because they're 21-year-old young men, when you go out there on the floor and they're going 90 miles an hour, like things just go haywire sometimes and it doesn't play out the way you want it to play out. And that's why like some coaches handle it better than others. And right now the Rams are just doing what Medved wants them to do. They're making very few mistakes on either end of the floor, and you're seeing that's why they're dismantling teams. I mean, they're good talent-wise, but they're not like a top 10 talent-wise team in the country, but they're maxing their talent out because they're just doing everything right. So that's kind of a basic, simplified answer.
I think they're fun to watch, and I think Memphis, you heard it, and I'm not trying to steal from the national pundits. Memphis got screwed. I really do, considering what they did this year. They were consistently in and out of the top 25. And I don't know, Penny Hardaway's gotten that program back on the map, and, he's alumni. I think I will start, and then I will go to this. And I think I missed my leading into you. I really butchered that. I was going to ask you about UNM first. I thought, nope, Colorado State. But we will get to UNM. I have to ask you, and I know you predominantly cover the Mountain West, and I know you've said that you kind of watch other conferences here and there, and I know you're busy. Your dad, we're all dads on this show. I own this company, then I work a day job. So if this was adulthood, if you would ask me, this was adulthood like 20 years, I would have said, I just want to stay 21 forever. But I mean, I have fun doing this. Plus I'm going to Cleveland Wednesday morning. The mistake by the lake, but one of my favorite baseball movies of all time, Major League. I was already playing Randy Newman. Anyway, what are your thoughts, I guess, on UNC getting in the tournament because they got to play San Diego State? And then I'll ask you here about Magoon Guath because it looks like he's playing.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's what I will say. Like most people, non-North Carolina fan section, I don't think they deserve to be in the tournament. I don't think Texas and I don't think Xavier deserve to be in. But the thing is, you can find flaws with any of the teams that got left out, and that includes Boise. I mean, Boise, hate to say it, they had a quad 4 loss, an awful, awful loss to Boston College. North Carolina has no quad 4 losses. Xavier, no quad 4 losses. I'm pretty sure Texas, no quad 4 losses. So while I don't think they should be in, somebody's got to be in. And they just decided to choose the big conference bias. And the other thing is, let's face it, fellas, we got 6 teams in last year because the conference was ridiculously good in a non-con. We were not very good in a non-con this year, and they were not going to give us 5 bids. So, I mean, do I think North Carolina deserved to be in? No. I mean, West Virginia probably should be in instead for sure. Maybe Indiana too, I would think. And then
UC Irvine.
And yeah, it could be Irvine, sure. Somebody else, yeah.
What was I going to say? Clemson, Boise beat Clemson, and I guess I would imagine San Diego State, which I think is good for the conference that they're in, probably by merit and name and what they've done the last 2 years, and probably beating Houston earlier in the year. I mean, that has really stuck with them, and I'm sure as John Rothstein and Chris Walker got into it Thursday night on CBS Sports Network, Rothstein, basically said it's your body of work. I will ask you about UNM because I did see that you tweeted out that you thought they played well. Coach, I respect you a lot. And again, I'm not the X's and O's guy. And I say this every show. I'm good at losing money on college basketball. I don't know. I think CJ Nolan is hurt. Patino said post-selection show. CJ Nolan is he said he's good to go, and Patino said, okay, if you listen to the press conference. But 4 bench points, he didn't hit a shot. Jovan Milicevic has seemed to be not there. He's been inconsistent since Wyoming. We're really non-existent since Wyoming. But you know, we're starting to have this conversation more and more here about how good of a player Donovan Dent is. How do they get past Marquette?
Yeah. Well, so let me, because I get what you were saying there. I clearly the entire team did not play well, but I thought like because
I misunderstood that. My bad.
No. Yeah. Well, it's tough when you're tweeting it out and you only have so many characters, right? I mean, the fact is they didn't get enough from the other guys, but it was a very good game. Boise played great to win, and because New Mexico, they didn't play great 1 through 8, but Dent and Nelly Jr. Joseph were fantastic. Now, Nelly, you know, maybe in the last minute or two had a slip up here or there, but yeah, you need more from the other guys. And that's going to be the key on Friday, I guess, right? Friday afternoon or Friday evening?
Friday evening
for me. Yeah. So Marquette is I put them in the Utah State boat. They were really good at the start of the year, like really good. They have a very good player, kind of like Dent. They have a very good guard, but they've not played great basketball here in the last month and a half. And you know, people could say, well, you know, they've lost to St. John's a couple times, and St. John's really good, and they play in the big. That's great, but they haven't looked good while doing it. Okay, so they're certainly a good team. They have a good coach. Shaka Smart's been around a while. Cam Jones is a very good guard, and I trust them as a program, but they're not playing great. And I think the teams have some similarities. I think as much as we think like New Mexico wants to get out and run, and Shaka likes to press, like this game isn't going to be in the 80s at all. I think it's going to be on the lower end. Like I'm not saying it'll be in the low 60s, but I think it's going to be in the low to mid 70s. I don't think anybody gets up to 75. I think it's going to be harder to score than you think. And it's really going to come down to those 3, 4, 5 guys for the Lobos. True Washington, maybe Borovichinen, who didn't have the greatest conference tournament, somebody off the bench, whatever that is. Marquette doesn't play a lot of guys. They run 6 guys out there for solid minutes and then a couple extra depending on the flow of the game. So I don't know. The game is there for the Lobos to take if they play well, for sure. It is.
I want to throw it over to Ed to ask a couple questions, but I mean, I've heard the pundits and then I'm thinking about it. I'm looking at it. I know I love Big East basketball. It still breaks my heart that it's Creighton, and even though Creighton's fun to watch and I love Greg McDermott, that Creighton and Butler play in the Big East tournament in MSG for a guy with New Jersey roots here in Delaware. But it seems like this is the premier point guard matchup of the first round. Is that a yay or nay from you?
Yeah, 100%. Yes. I mean, they're going to ball dominant guys and they make plays. They create, they're not exactly the same type of player. Jones probably shoots it a little bit better, but Dent more electric as a passer. So yeah, absolutely. From, looking at the other matchups, there's no way that you can have 2 better guys running the show than those 2. Absolutely.
Appreciate that, Ed. Any questions from you?
Yeah, I absolutely do. But I think one of the things I wanted to say first, Niko Medved at Colorado State, you mentioned the Rams, the way they're playing right now. Coaching matters. And Niko Medved is one of the best coaches in the Mountain West Conference. You mentioned that. My son and I just finished doing the state tournament here in Albuquerque, and you can draw up. When teams get on a roll like that, they're running the things you want them to. Leon Rice, a great call to Meadow on the press break. A great call.
Yeah.
Run out. Meadow hits a 3 that absolutely buried New Mexico. It buried them. I thought, hey, we're in a good spot, and then boom, and then that press break was huge. Coaching matters. I think Shaka Smart is a very good coach, and so is Richard Pitino, very good. But it's going to come down to maybe some chess matches there. Now, I think one of the points you made, and it's a good one, is about the rest of the Lobos. We know what Donovan Dent and Nelly Jr. Joseph will do and have done, but there's some concern, for me as a fan. And 8 of 28 from Borovichinen, Nolan, Washington, and I think the other guy that I think is key is Amzil. Okay, so 4 of 13. Now, I've had plantar fasciitis. That stuff is painful. It is. He came back. Now, as a shooter, I used to launch him from 25, 30. Now, if you miss them from the back iron, they feel good going off your hand. Now he's just overshooting a little bit, and I don't think that's that's not bad, because those aren't. I've seen it when you see guys missing on the side of the rim, or totally not on the rim. I think they need him to come around, but I think Borovichinen is a big key. I think with he hasn't had any offensive production. Great move with that head fake. Great move, head and shoulder, squares up again. I'm not seeing anything wrong with the mechanics. He's squaring up to the basket. It's just not going in. Maybe he needs to get to the basket, draw some fouls, go to the line. Cam Jones is going to be a problem for True Washington. He is. True's going to have to stop him. You mentioned that, but I think if you're Shaka Smart and you're definitely going to try to get the ball out of Den's hands. I mean, Den is an amazing passer. And I've seen a lot of Lobo point guards here, a lot of great ones. As far as passing, he's almost like Magic Johnson in a way. He doesn't have the height, but he's going to hit you sometimes. And James Worthy said that you better, when he went to practice with Magic, you better not turn your head. It'll hit you in the back of the head. And Dan has that, not Magic's vision, all of it, but he's got some great vision. New Mexico's going to need him and Nelly to play well. And Nelly's had problems. Hopefully Marquette doesn't get him on the perimeter. He's had problems guarding on the perimeter. He's not very good guarding on the perimeter. He's okay inside. He does his job there. But I think you're right. I think it comes down to some coaching, chess games in this tournament. You know that. It comes down to some coaching matchups here. And you got two of the best, I think. Richard Pitino's done a great job here. But I think it comes down to some of the other Lobos. They got to step up. And coach, this. If you're open, you got to make some shots, man. That's what it comes down to. And I think, hopefully Amzil Nolan has a hamstring. We know those things can linger. He's got some time and some treatment. Hopefully he only had 8 minutes against Boise. They need him. But I got to say this. They brought him in as a shooter. He's had some games where it's like boom, boom, but not consistent, where we've seen it from game to game to game to game, where we know he's going to light it up. It hasn't been what I think that they thought it might be. So they need that from him. And again, if he's a little bit banged up, hopefully his defense has been important too. I think we mentioned length, but I'll mention strength too. Length and strength. CJ Nolan played some running back. He's
a thick dude, yeah. Yep.
So I think to your point, but I think coaching really, really matters in the tournament, and we're going to see some chess matches between Pitino and Shaka Smart on Friday. I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, I mean, look, Shaka he has his reputation as like a wizard. Maybe not so much anymore, but everybody remembers his Final Four run when he was at VCU. He hasn't had a ton of success in the tournament at Texas or Marquette, to be honest, since then. I mean, he's won some games, but it's not like he's constantly getting to the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. I'd have to look up the exact numbers, but it doesn't happen all the time for as much as he's in the tournament. And for Richard, he's going to want to get that sour taste out of his mouth from last year. They came in playing so well. There was a lot of talk about them. They were an 11 seed, and they were even favored in that game over Clemson, the 6 seed, and they just didn't play very well. So, he's going to want to, and that goes for Dent and Amzil and Nelly too. They're going to want to get that bad taste out of their mouth from kind of the egg that they laid last year. So, I mean, look, who has, as you mentioned, Ed, like the lights are on. It doesn't get any brighter than this. So who can make shots when the pressure ramps up a little bit? And, because that the A-plus guys are going to do it, but you need it from everybody else. And then it comes down to what, like you said, what decisions are Pitino and Shaka going to make, and who makes a play down the stretch?
I think the other point I want to make is that strength of schedule. They played Xavier, St. John's. They played St. John's pretty tough. That's our only common opponent is St. John's. In New Mexico played them in the Madison Square Garden earlier in the season. And St. John's, man, that's a tough team. And they only lost them one time by 2, 86-84. Marquette did. And again, I think New Mexico, you mentioned the matchup against Clemson last year, wasn't a good matchup. You got 3 6-foot guards against big guards for Clemson. Yeah. They made a Sweet 6. They get the Elite Eight. They got to the Elite Eight. Yeah. So, but I think you mentioned for New Mexico, they don't get much respect by the committee. I don't think the Mountain West does. the only way they can take care of that is win games.
Yeah.
Win a first round, get into the Sweet 16. That's the only way. San Diego State has got that reputation. They played in a national championship. So now they've got that respect by the committee. New Mexico doesn't, and I understand that. They haven't won any games, and they got a 3 against Harvard and laid an egg, and the committee remembers those things. Now, as a Lobo fan, man, hey, I'm going to be rooting, cheering, bite my nails, the whole thing. But I think if they play well, and again, it comes down to that. You got to make shots, man. And I thought Washington kind of reverted back to hunting for shots again instead of playing with Dan. When they played in tandem those games, remember, Milicevic came in the press conference and said he told Dan, "Give me the ball. I'll make the shot. I'll win the game." And Dan did. There's 7 seconds left against Wyoming. And I thought me and Ryan were sitting right next to each other. And I said, he's going, man. And he threw it to Milicevic and he made the shot. Now they're going to need him too. And he's been, hit that freshman wall again. It seems like he played very well and development, right? Player development. That's important. He had played very well. And now all of a sudden the wall's there. They need him. That guy's, I'll tell you what, coach, fundamental wise, he squares up as good as anybody to that basket. Even when he misses, you're thinking, hey, it's got a chance. So they're going to need some contributions, I think, from him too.
Yeah, I think I put a jinx on him. I sent out a tweet maybe a week or two ago, or a couple of weeks ago. I don't remember what game it was, but he was going down to the post. He had really good footwork inside. He was making shots because, like you said, had fundamentally sound. And then ever since then, he's kind of like steadily reverted back to some early season trouble. So it's, the Lobos don't need every single one of these guys that played well on Friday, but you can't have them all play poorly the way they did for the most part last Friday, or it's going to be a problem.
Lastly, before we let you go, Coach, and thank you for joining us tonight, who makes the deepest run out of any of the Mountain West Conference teams?
Oh, man. It's crazy. Like, honestly, it'll make me sick, but we could go 0-4. I also think we could win 3 games. Like every one of them there's pros and cons in each of the matchups. Like Utah State, they have a tough matchup against the physicality of UCLA. You guys have seen UCLA up close, in person, right? I mean, because let's face it, for any one of our teams to win a second round game, Ryan, they're going to have to pull a huge upset. I mean, look at the opponents that they're going to play in the second round. And San Diego State's got to win 2 games to get to that second round. So, I mean, they actually probably have the best first round matchup then if they can get by North Carolina, but they're an underdog against North Carolina. So, like, I like to think that a few of them can win 2 games. If you're asking me who is the best shot, I guess it has to be Colorado State because the committee kind of screwed their opponents there in Memphis and Maryland as the higher seeds, having to go out west to Seattle. I kind of factored in a little bit the geography. I mean, New Mexico, if they can get by here against Marquette, and that's not going to be easy, but they'll have their hands full too with Michigan State. So look at some of the teams that we're going to have to beat in the second round here. Michigan State, and then UCLA, and that's Tennessee then would be the next team for Utah State. So we're really up against it for somebody to get to the Sweet 16, as much as I hate to say it.
I agree with you there. I think if anybody can do it, it's Colorado State. And I mentioned that last night that the committee set Michigan to Denver, who won the Big Ten. And, we had Rocco Miller on, and he was like, the bracket's already basically picked by Friday night. And then you send Maryland as a 4 seed to Seattle. I don't, right. I don't understand that, but Coach, I hope you enjoy the tournament. We've always appreciated, whether it's a half an hour or 15 minutes, we always appreciate. Thank you for joining us tonight.
No problem. Hopefully the Lobos can win 2 games, and I'll get back on next week talking Sweet 16. What do you think?
I will harass you. I will harass you. He will be jubilated. I mean, but I will. If that's the case, then I will harass you next week. But expect some pictures from me on Thursday at Media Days and Friday at the game. Tom, thank you very much.
All right, fellas, enjoy. Take care. Thanks.
Appreciate it. All right, that was Tom Moser, Top of the Mountain podcast. You can catch that out. He's at Coach Moser. All right. Quickly turning around to one of my favorite guys to talk to. And former, I think, Daily Lobo and Albuquerque Journal alumni from the Santa Fe, New Mexican, Mr. Will Weber. Will, how are you doing?
Yeah, very briefly, Daily Lobo. I worked there for about 2 weeks and then got hired at the Journal, so got lucky. Actually, and funny story, I got my job at the Journal by when they were resurfacing the floor of the pit. They were putting in a brand new floor in the pit, and Dave Bliss was the coach. And my roommate was the sports editor for the Lobo at the time. And he's like, hey, I'm going back to Reno, see some family. Can you just fill in for me while I'm gone? I barely know how to type because I was a geology major. Go down to the pit, just the doors are wide open. Turns out they're ripping out the original floor that they used for the Final Four in 1983. And there was a guy from one of the pueblos here in New Mexico with a giant 6-foot-long crowbar just ripping the boards up right near where Derek Wittenberg took the shot. So I wrote an entire story about how this guy knew nothing about basketball. He's a professional wrestling fan, and he's just ripping the floorboards out, and they're splintering, they're jumping all over the place. And that story got me a job at the Journal. So there you go. That's how I went from a geology major, probably park ranger. I'd probably be laid off right now, working as a sports journalist where I make even less money than park rangers do.
Well, that is a fantastic story. I didn't know that, but you know who told me, or you know how I found out this weird tidbit that you were a geology major was standing next to you during a Ray Birmingham interview. And he said, yeah, you were a geology major or something. And I was like, wait, so that was a million years ago. How I remember that, I don't know, but that puts everything together. Hey, that's a great story. I love that.
Studying rocks and cloud formations. That would have been my career. I'd be doing topographical maps for the Park Service had that one guy not been in the pit tearing up the floorboards.
I got to ask you a question about that, Will. You didn't, get any of the floor. You didn't say, this is a historic pit floor. You didn't think to get a floorboard or anything.
No, I'm not going to do any of that. It was just kind of a cool moment because they'd driven a pickup truck. This old Chevy pickup truck was backed up right on center court, and they're just throwing stuff on there. It's like, oh my God, you're standing on hallowed ground, just tearing this thing apart. I think they eventually did cut out parts of the floor, and I believe North Carolina State has it, or a bar back in Raleigh has something from the pit floor back then. But whether it was that actual spot, I don't know. But I can tell you that from where Wittenberg took that shot, that's where this guy was going to town. So
wow, I remember exactly where that shot was from. That was a deep shot.
Absolutely.
Next time I'm in the building, I thought it was pretty cool 2 years ago because it was the 40th anniversary. And next time I'm on that side of the court, I'm going to probably cherish a little bit because it's kind of crazy that maybe one of the most infamous videos or images of sports in this country is Valvano running on the pit floor. It is quite that. Well, I appreciate that story. That was awesome. So from topographical mats to the son of Rick Pitino, Mr. One Richard Pitino. I guess I'll start with generic softball question. What did you think of this season?
Well, I mean, they won the conference, which is, I don't know if I'd call it unexpected because they were picked second in the preseason. So I think the expectations were pretty high, but just the way they did it, going undefeated at home, which they don't really do all that often. Granted, they did lose to New Mexico State, but to run the table through a 20-game schedule says a lot about that team. And they played well on the road. Look, they're two of their three losses were to teams that should be in the tournament. But this team has avoided major injuries. I know Mustafa Amsil, he is not right yet. CJ Nolan's got a hamstring injury, but for the most part, outside of that, the walk-on Shane Dumas Sanchez with his distraction, this team has not really had a lot of bumps in the road. So that's where I think if you're a Lobo fan, you have to feel at least slightly optimistic, knowing that they've got all hands on deck. They've really avoided major controversies. They haven't had huge losing streaks. This team hasn't played great, but it hasn't played poorly at all. So I think, it's a tough matchup with Marquette. Marquette, and I wrote a story about this today. Marquette is one of those teams who has fallen in love with a three-point shot. They've taken almost 300 more three-point attempts than the Lobos have all season. And you see it time and again where teams that rely on the three, they really seem to struggle. If they get cold, they keep shooting. They try to shoot their way out of it. And that's a quick ticket out of the tournament. That's why I think Utah State's going to have a hard time in this tournament because they shoot a ton of threes too. But you look at Marquette, their star point guard, he has made, I believe it's 230 or 206 three-point shots. UNM as a team has about 230. So he shoots a lot from behind the arc. And so, look, if they struggle, just with the way UNM runs defense and the way they run pace, I think it's a good matchup for them.
I wanted to ask this real quick, if I could, Ryan. They score 76 points and limit the opponent to 68.5. You mentioned, I think it was Cam Jones. He's shooting 31% on threes, but New Mexico relies on playing downhill, stealing the ball. Do you see this as? And you mentioned that a team that shoots threes. New Mexico traditionally has had problems. They haven't won a first-round game since 2012.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's been a while. You mentioned too. I think what Coach Pitino set out last year to get more length, a better schedule. They did. They beat VCU and UCLA, lost to ASU. But I think they did a better job of that. Do you see this matchup between Jones and Dent? We asked Coach Moser that as being one of the top matchups of the first round.
Yeah, actually, I don't think Dent is going to pair up with him because just traditionally, you don't see Dent guarding the best guy from the other team. I think that responsibility is going to fall to True Washington. True is basically the shutdown corner for that team. But you're going to see a combination of True, CJ Nolan, and Borovichinen. Borovichinen, in my opinion, has really struggled. He's had a tough season. He's just made some real bonehead mistakes. But defensively, the guy can hold his own because he's got length. He's 6'9". He has 4 inches on Cam Jones. But the guy you're going to have to focus. Really, the key matchup is going to probably be True against Jones, just to see how that goes. And Dent, I think Dent kind of gets his own. He's good for his 16, 20 points a game. Thing is, Marquette doesn't have a lot of depth. They basically play 5 guys, and they come off the bench with a few other players who can average about 10, 13, 14 minutes a game. But for the most part, you're dealing with their starters. And if you can shut the lead guy down or at least limit the damage from him, I think they got a real chance. I like this matchup for them. But look, if they can survive that game, it's a tough matchup with Michigan State because Tom Izzo does not lose in the NCAA tournament. Michigan State's one of those teams where they either wind up in the Final Four or they lose to Bryant. That's the kind of team that Michigan State is. So it'll be a fun weekend. I'm going out there. I'm flying out there on Wednesday. I've never actually been to Cleveland, so looking forward to the terrible weather and probably the gray skies and the pollution. And I know that Cleveland's biggest export is depression, so we'll see how that works.
You mentioned, I got to ask you this about Borovichinen. He had played well, and then the shooting. And again, he's had open looks, clean looks. Mm-hmm. And I said this to Coach Moser, I've said it before, that fake, he gets everybody to fly on that fake. It's a fundamental head and shoulders fake, very fundamental. He's had good, clean looks. Amzil, 4 of 13 on Friday. They're going to need some points from those guys. You mentioned Borovichinen has struggled lately, but how important are those two on Friday against Marquette and True as well? They all struggled. They got to make some shots.
Yeah, I think CJ Nolan he didn't get a lot of valuable minutes in that loss to Boise State just because he had a hamstring problem. We didn't know about that until after the game. Asked Pitino about it yesterday, and he said he seems fine. So if CJ Nolan can play, he's one of these guys who can give you 15 points when he gets hot because he's that 3-point threat who will drive to the basket. He's one of these guys who absorbs paint just about as better as anyone by taking the ball into traffic. Thing is, he gets tunnel vision sometimes. You see him with the ball. He's like any guy in pickup basketball, like James Barone, my coworker at the New Mexican. he gets that look in his eye, and he's just going to the basket. Doesn't matter who else is open. But look, Amzil has really, really struggled, and I think it's to the detriment of the best lineup that they can have on the floor. Jovan Milicevic was playing well while Mustafa was out. And since Mustafa's come back, Milicevic has just gone back to that 6 to 10 minutes a game. And he was becoming, like you guys talked about before I came on, he was becoming one of the more reliable 3-point shooters. So, look, it's a chess match. Who do you put in there? And I know Coach Pitino is definitely loyal to his guys, and he'll probably give Amzil the opportunity to prove himself until he can't. But look, it's all hands on deck right now. And I think the key role right now is Washington on defense and Nolan on offense. If Nolan can get hot, who knows?
You came on our show maybe a month or two ago and mentioned how Richard Pitino was one of your favorite coaches to cover. And I asked that because, I think he's a straight shooter. And I like that about him, and he's funny. I think he's I might have mentioned this last time you were on. He's got that hint of dry humor where it reminds me of Bill Murray in Ghostbusters. He's Dr. Peter Venkman for a little bit, but he's a basketball coach. And obviously you see where he gets it from because his dad's been on one this year, and it's fantastic. But do you think he stays or leaves? And I'm not trying to put you on the hot seat. I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
I think there's a pretty good chance he's out of here after this. And look, it's the same story every single year. Is you ride that train for a basketball team or a football team. Really, basketball is unique in this way, but you follow this team nonstop. You have access to them 3 or 4 or 5 days a week. Fans come out, they get to listen to these guys, watch them play. But when it's over, it ends abruptly, and you lose all contact with these guys. And that's when the real speculation begins. Who's leaving? Who's jumping in the portal? Does coach stay? I think there's a really good chance he's gone. And he's been dropping subtle hints to this all year. I've written about this. I've talked about it. But the collapse of the Mountain West is really, it got to him. Yeah, I know they have one more year left where they can do something, but no matter what, the future is just not great for the Mountain West. And it's just a crying shame because he saw the value in this conference. He came here and they've had 4 bids in this league, at least 4 bids, 4 straight years. That's as good as the ACC. It's as good as some of these other major conferences. And now you're splitting it apart. And I think that really bothers him. Another thing is, I think I mentioned it to you guys last time I was on here, is he doesn't necessarily want more money. I think he'll take, if you throw him $3 million, he'll gladly take it, but he wants the travel. He wants the ability to maybe schedule 1 more, 2 more road games without having to play those requisite 18 home games every year that they have to do to pay the bills, because it's all about strength of schedule. You have to get out and play some of the best teams from the Big 12, from the SEC. You're going to have to go on the road and play them or do these neutral site things. And right now they just don't have the flexibility to do that. And then another travel element is he doesn't want to fly commercial. And I've talked to him a lot about this, is you take a group of 6'8", 6'10" guys, and you take them down to the airport and they ride the festival seating on Southwest Airlines. And you're trying to shoehorn these guys in. They got to go through TSA. They got to go through baggage claim. They got to squeeze in these tiny seats. And then you get off the plane, you got to go through all the other decomposing stuff, where if you just charter a jet, which they've done probably more than half the time this year, you charter a jet, you leave when you want, you arrive when you want, you don't have to go through any of that stuff. And it's like he's talked about. We are a multi-million-dollar operation. That is exactly what UNM's basketball program is. It is a major fundraiser for this school. It is the window to the world for the University of New Mexico. Treat it that way. Treat these guys like they're businessmen. Treat them like they're valuable assets to the university. And that would rub a lot of just native New Mexicans the wrong way, because, look, we all work hard for our money. I know I certainly do, whether I was a park ranger or a journalist. We don't get paid a lot. And it sounds like a bunch of spoiled brats complaining about, oh, poor me, I have to travel commercial. But that's just the way it is. If you want to be part of that next level, the highest level college basketball, they need things like that. They need a nutrition program for these players, so they're not eating at Chick-fil-A at 11 o'clock at night. So they have access to healthy food all the time. Look, my own son is a college athlete, and I can tell you, it's not great to see him eating Domino's pizza on the weekends. I would much rather see him have access to better stuff. But that's just how college athletes are. It's trending in that direction, and he certainly wants that for UNM.
Do you think that the collapse, you mentioned all those other issues, and, understandably so, but would you say that the collapse of the Mountain West Conference is the biggest one? I would think that because he said this on this show the other night, about 2 weeks ago, that he hoped the league didn't turn into a one-bid league, when all the teams leave. And I would think that's probably the overriding factor. Is that what you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, once all those other teams leave, the bell cow becomes UNM and UNLV and Nevada. And I know Nevada's pouring some money into it, but I do think there's a good chance he leaves. And I've already done something on this too, but I've talked about the replacements for him if and when he does go. which could be really in a matter of days from away from right now. I think Steve Alford, as crazy as it sounds, I think Steve Alford is a legitimate candidate. He's a guy who's always had his heart in New Mexico, and I can look into my crystal ball and I will tell you exactly what he says if he comes back here. He will stand in front of the press and all the fans and all the boosters up in that top level of the pit, like they do for every coach incoming. And he'll say, you know what? I had a chance to leave here before, chance to take over a blue blood program, and I gave it my best, but I've always had my heart stuck here in New Mexico, and I've always loved this place. And I'm, now that I'm an empty nester, I'm coming back here to retire. And everyone in the room is going to stand and clap. Everyone's going to be super excited and like, yay, Steve. And the only question is going to be, are you allowed to bring back Craig Neal? Because I think when Steve left, everyone's like, well, I can understand. He's going to UCLA. You can't blame the guy. But Craig Neal is the guy who burned it all to the ground. He took Camelot and threw a Molotov cocktail in there, and it took years to recover from that. So do you allow the guy that you still hold everything accountable to come back as, the Robin to Batman? That to me, I think would be really interesting.
I think my answer to that is no, not to Craig Neal. And, the reason I say that is I thought he quit on the Lobos. I did. I thought when Cullen left, he said it in the paper, I don't coach hustle. I remember that. And I thought to myself, I've been around the game a long time, man. And when I read that, I'm like, wow. I really thought he was bitter when Cullen left. He blamed the fans on that. I don't think he can. I don't see it. There's still a lot of fans now. Alford, kind of a reach. I still think that. I really do. But I kind of agree with you in a way. When he was here, I told Ryan this all the time, 30-5 seasons don't grow on trees. But we had Lamont Long on our Lobo Legend series, and he'd mentioned Clayton, Kenny, Spider, Royce. I had to look back on that, and those teams were really good. And Bliss, because of him, people don't look at it like, hey, that was a great era, because when they think of Dave Bliss, you're sickened by what he did. But was Bliss better than Alford? Somebody brought it up on our show, and I dismissed it. I said, no way. But I had to look back on it and say he had some success in the NCAA tournament first round. Mm-hmm. Now, Alford was a great coach, 30-5. Now, I think when he left here, and you mentioned he realized, Ryan said it too, how good he had it here. So I think I thought he was very arrogant when he was here. I did. Now, he was a winner, So Bob King, the architect of Lobo basketball, is he second, or is it Norm? Norm second. It's probably Alford, Alford there, and then Norm. I think, somebody might have put Bliss there if he hadn't done what he did. He's eliminated because of what he did. His name is like mud. But I think there's a possibility he could come back. But Craig Neal, there's no way, man. There's no way. Now, together, they make a great team. Neal couldn't coach by himself. We saw that. But together, you saw them when they were here. Alford had the board. Neal had the board. And they trusted each other. There's a deep trust between them. Craig Neal never got another coaching job after he left here. But my answer to that is hell no. And I normally don't. I wouldn't want to see it because of the taste I still have in my mouth when he left here. He didn't want to be here. He didn't like it here. He made sure on his way out to trash New Mexico as much as he could. So no thanks to him. But any other surprising candidates that you might think besides him? Is there anybody else that you thought of?
Well, it's too bad they can't bring back Norm Ellenberger because as dirty as he was, he'd be great in this era of paying out.
Love the NIL. Yes, he would.
Man, I tell you, he'd have this place looking like a renegade Duke in no time at all. I thought like Will Wade is a hot candidate. He's got a ton of baggage, but the guy has just been a winner. He's built just turned McNeese State of all teams into a solid, really exciting team. And I know his name is thrown out for a lot of places, but I think he's so successful that you're willing to look the other way for all the things he's done. And it's like that with a lot of coaches now. I think, yeah, he might have cheated. He might have done this and that, but if he can win, if he can get the fans excited, which means more money, which means more the attendance goes up, which makes us more attractive to TV, you're going to do that. As far as like the best coaches in Lobo history, though, I would actually put Dave Bliss below Steve Alford. I know Dave had those 4 straight years where they won a single game in the NCAA tournament, and everyone talks about the good old days of Lobo basketball, and you could make the argument that was it, that they went to the second round 4 years in a row. But Steve Alford did something that no coach at UNM has ever done, and that is they got tough on the road. He made these guys into a solid program on the road where they weren't intimidated. And Dave Bliss's teams, Gary Colson's teams, they were notorious for losing games on the road that they should have won. You didn't see that a lot out of Alford.
That's what on the road with Colson, Gary Colson, rest in peace. All due respect, he did rebuild the program here. And really, when he was on the, I wasn't a huge Colson fan, but on the verge of really probably maybe turning it around when he lost the WAC championship in 1987 and here at the Pit, and that was his man. Frank Maestas of the Journal asked him some tough questions after that, and it wasn't long after that, about a week later. I'm not blaming the late great Frank Maestas, but he was gone. So I think you're right about that, about the road. That is a huge faux pas with Bliss. It was bad with Colson. Norm Mellenberger's teams won on the road. They did. They had some mental toughness. That 77-78 team was as mentally tough, although they lost to Cal State Fullerton in the first round. But yeah, Gary Colson's teams on the road were not good. Dave Bliss's teams on the road, not good. So you know what? That might give Coach Alford a little edge there over Bliss. And again, people don't remember Bliss for good things because of what happened. But he did do, I talked to Ron Garcia the other day, the former video coordinator under Bliss. And man, he had, he was telling me Bliss was very, very organized. Very organized. And he was a good coach. And I think sometimes because of the bitterness, people forget that. And I think it's good that you're reminding us here. Yeah.
Dave, I know Dave always kept a dictionary on his desk. First time I ever met him, I was working for the Daily Lobo. The one time I worked for the Daily Lobo, kept the dictionary on his desk, and he would always use a new word every single day. So he'd just flip it open. It'd be some word I've never heard of. I couldn't spell it if you gave me a 13-letter advantage. But he would work it into conversation. I'm like, what on earth are you talking about, man? Like, look, I'm just a dumb college kid. You're going to have to write everything down in crayon. I don't need you flipping through a thesaurus or a dictionary to make yourself seem more impressive. But that's the kind of guy he was. He always treated me fairly enough, like Steve Alford. Look, Steve didn't like anybody, but he didn't like anybody, and he treated everyone exactly the same. You always knew where you stood with him because when he walked into a press conference, you knew he just didn't like you, and that was fine. He gave you your soundbite, he answered your questions, and then he was done. Where Pitino, I'm going to miss him because the guy is conversational, and I've kind of developed a thing with him where I will purposely re-ask a question that somebody's already asked because that's become my thing. I'll wait for somebody to ask a question. I'll rephrase it just to see if he catches on. And every now and then he does catch on. He's like, well, somebody already asked that, Weber. It's like, I know, Richard, I'm just trying to keep you on your toes. But I like the guy. I like what he's done. He's done everything he can in 4 years. And if he fails, and if he goes to the Villanova job, which I think is a legitimate candidate for Villanova, or he goes to Central Florida, or he goes wherever, the guy has earned his ticket out of town. And it's like when Steve left. You can't blame him because he built a winner.
I'll say one thing that Coach Alford sure loves Ryan. He's really, really nice to Ryan. He likes Ryan. I know that.
What's really crazy, and for those that watch the show, they're like, why the hell does this guy defend Steve Alford? Well, we're journalists, and I was harassed by one UNM coach in a bar, and the basketball coach was
Mike Loxley.
Yeah,
Mike Loxley.
Yeah. Who James Frank? He's. I guess I'm not public enemy number one. It's probably James Franklin or hey Nacho Isaac Avalusea. What was I gonna say? Yeah, no, Steve. I rarely ask questions in press conferences because I think I'm an idiot, so I don't want to look like an idiot. But I asked a question one time at the Daily Lobo, and I'm throwing out, as I always do on the show, my buddy, good friend Mike Matas, very good friend of mine for going on 5 years now. Was a manager for Steve. So I got to know those guys. I'm not saying they're my best friends. I got to know Roe very well. Ramon Martinez, Daniel Ferris, Doris Gary. Phil McDonald is now a friend of the show. But I asked a question one time at the Daily Lobo back, in their heyday when they were with the Alford year. And I think it was the 30-5 year. And, he kind of gave Mark a hard time. I think he gave the other guys a hard time. And I asked something, and he looked at me at the table, and he thought about it. He goes, well, Ryan, and I was all, what? like, holy moly, because he knew who I was. And then this last time in Vegas, and I know I sound like terrible clout here, journalism clout, which I don't like doing. I ran into him right away at the Mountain West Conference Media Days, and he was like, Ryan, what's going on? And I said, hey, Mike Mata told me to tell you Justin Fields suck. And he was like, tell Mike the Cardinals suck. Like, it was cool. Like, it was cool. And then I was with Rick and my friend Jacob, who were on the show, and we were trying to get gathered, like, who are we talking to next? And Alford was like, just out of the corner of my eye, was like pointing at the chair, sat down, and was ready to talk to me. And I was like, this is not the Steve Alford of, like, I think that UNM got to know. So I think, and in talking with my buddy Mike, not trying to give out too much information, NIL, I think, has changed a lot of these coaches, and he's probably had to embrace it. And I want to get a little bit more of your thoughts on the NCAA tournament, but I wanted to say this, and Ed and I disagree with on this, which Ed and I are very good friends, but I told Ed we have to disagree sometimes on the show, and I'm not doing it on purpose. I think I loved absolutely what you said about him coming back and saying that at the press conference. I think that would be awesome. I mean, I know, I think it's weird as sports fans because we hold, I think maybe professionals at a higher level. I don't like the NBA game, so it's weird, but Steve Alford has earned his stripes as a coach and was a bad mother effer as a player.
Mm-hmm.
I know it was Keith Smart that saved the day, but obviously they're not there with Steve Alford. I think he's a bad man. I think he's a great coach. And it's not a knock on Richard, because again, I do like Pitino. And he gets the ovation walking down the pit floor. I think with Steve Alford wore the red blazer and walking down the pit floor, he absolutely, owned the place. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. They used to put his eyes up on the ribbon board up around the top of the arena, which was amazing. It is just a big close-up of his eyeballs. And
did they do that?
Yeah, it was intimidating as all get out.
Oh man, yeah, that would scare the crap out of me. I don't know. I like Steve. I think he is really, if not, the guy's won 700 games. Like, you can't take that away from him.
Yeah.
So I think there's that. But I think we're going to know a lot, here in the next week. The other name is Alan Huss, who is the head of the High Point Panthers, who are in the tournament. And they, I forgot who they play. They're the Big South champs. A lot of people like them to win their first round game. And if I can find it, damn it. And then, Will Wade is out there.
Greg Smith, the old Utah coach, he was in Utah State. I think he always liked the Mountain West. So yeah, for sure.
And then his name is escaping me, the North Carolina State head coach that just got fired.
I actually met that guy at a national there was an awards thing in North Carolina last year, and my wife and I went out to it. It was in Greensboro, and he was recognized as the national coach of the year. And I just met Joe Buck when I got off the elevator. I was like, holy crap, it's Joe Buck. It was amazing. And right after I introduced myself to him, I'm all, fanboying out. The North Carolina State coach walks up to us and introduces himself. And I'm thinking, oh, well, this is nice. A fellow journalist from, where might you be from? Idaho? He's like, I'm the head coach at North Carolina State. He's like, oh, yeah, you guys just went to the Final Four. Don't I look like an idiot? As a sports writer, I have no idea who this guy is. But, yeah, he'd be a good candidate here, too.
Is it Kevin Weeks? I have to look it up, but I
still have no idea what his name is. All I can say is how terrible I felt for not knowing who he was.
It's Kevin Keats. I can see his face. I felt really bad about that. I have to ask you, you mentioned the matchup with Cam Jones. Well, I guess, you've covered UNM basketball a long time. Where would this team rank if they're able to win a couple games in the tournament?
Oh, a couple games. They got to the second weekend. I think they go down as probably one of the best teams in history. And that includes the 1977-78 team who flamed out against Fullerton with a chance to come back to New Mexico and play in the next round. That team had legitimate Final Four aspirations. They were in the top 5 at the end of the season in the rankings. That team just laid an egg. But if you can get to the Sweet 16 with having gone through Marquette and presumably Michigan State, and by the way, with a chance to maybe run into San Diego State, because San Diego State's on the other side of that bracket, you could run into San Diego State playing them in the Sweet 16 in Atlanta. How weird would that be? And then Auburn, the top team in the country, lying in wait on the other side too. But yeah, I think if they can somehow survive this weekend, get to Atlanta next week, it definitely go down as one of the best teams in history. And every win they get, whether it's this weekend or the following weekend, just gets Patino one step closer to getting the heck out of here. So it's too bad. I wish you nothing but the best in Philadelphia, Coach, because 2 Patinos in the Big East would be a lot of fun to watch.
Well, here's my theory, and I want to throw this your way before we let you go. I mean, I got the New Jersey roots. I've worked in New York City. I am an, kind of de facto New York sports fan. I pay attention to UNM and then what's going on with the Metropolitans.
I never would have known that with a Mets warm-up shirt and an Allen Houston.
I'm sorry. I moved the Vince Carter one because it said New Jersey on it. I forgot I put it there. I got to get ready to wake up and watch the Doyers in the morning, to see what happens with that train wreck. I'm already talking shit. Where's Lobo Ronnie? Now I lost my train of thought, damn it. Oh no, what I was going to say is I had this theory that his dad running the Big East and they are on the back page of the Post. They are the talk of the town in New York. Mm-hmm. And that is a big deal. When you win in that city, you run that town, and with his name, they are running that town right now. I just had this theory that he would, as much as he probably loves his son, and if he's watching, he's probably going to hate me. He will probably never see me again after Thursday in Richard Pitino. But I just had this theory. It was like, why would he go to the Big East? Would his dad tell him to stay the F out of that conference? But then again, it's, for them to get a 1-2 seed in the Big East tournament and meet in the Big East title game, like that is news upon news upon news in the college basketball world. I mean, could you, why do you think Villanova?
Well, I mean, it's right now, Villanova is basically the highest profile job out there because Jay Wright left for a reason. He didn't want to deal with the NIL stuff, but the Patinos know how to work it. It's like they were both tailor-made to be in this time and place in college basketball. It certainly helps when his father has access to a billionaire who supports the St. John's athletic program. But look, Big East it was what, half a dozen years ago where that league seemed like it was dead. It started to come back, and now it is truly a basketball powerhouse league. They've surpassed the ACC. I think you could make a point that they're probably the 4th best, maybe the 3rd best conference in the country right now. So if you want to be in a place that, first of all, is not a football school, that emphasizes basketball and has a deep tradition, why not be in Villanova? No, it's not his decision to go there. I'm sure he'd be interested in going, but whether it's Providence or Seton Hall or any one of those schools in the Big East would be perfect for him. But who knows? All that said, watch him wind up being the coach at Iowa next year. Who knows? Maybe I could be completely, or he could return to New Mexico, give it one more year, because I know his kids love it here. His wife seems to be happy. So who knows? Maybe he comes back, give us it one last shot.
Johnny Dawkins hasn't been fired at UCF. He's an Italian from the Northeast. I would think Florida is calling his name. Any other predictions for the other 3 Mountain West teams? Who do you like? Because I think everybody's got Colorado State in their Sweet 16 like I do, so I'll look like an idiot.
Yeah, I don't know. Colorado State is the hot team right now. They won 10 in a row. Everyone's falling in love with them, but they do kind of feel a little bit like the Lobos did last year, where they were red hot going into the tournament. And it's weird because they're 12-5. They're actually favored in that first round game. And that it just seems like all the stars are aligned for Colorado State. I think they wind up losing. I think they get knocked out. I think Utah State's in trouble just because of what I mentioned. They're a 3-point shooting team, and that is never, ever a good thing. So I like San Diego State against North Carolina in that first 4. San Diego State could not throw the ball in the ocean, but they're so good defensively. They have the top-rated defense in the country. And defense translates when you get to the NCAA tournament. And then they play Ole Miss, a team that likes to get out and run. And they've shown time and again that they can take teams that like to run and slow them down. I think San Diego State, and it's, man, if you're a Mountain West fan, you're sick and tired of hearing about San Diego State. This league had 4 bids a couple of years ago, and it won 5 games in the NCAA tournament. All 5 wins were San Diego State because they got to the national championship. Everyone else was 1 and out. I think the Lobos are truly a 50-50 team. I think this is more of an 8-9 matchup. I do like their chances against Marquette. They're an experienced team. They're an older team. They've got a little bit more depth, and they don't shoot the threes. I like their matchup. but getting past Michigan State, I don't know if I can pick them over Sparty. I think the Lobos finally win a game, but yeah, getting past that next round, I don't know. I don't see any Mountain West teams getting to the Sweet 16 this year.
I hear you there. Guess who's going to the mistake? But God, if anybody's listening to Cleveland, I have to defend myself because I love the movie Major League. Going to the mistake by the lake, which like 5 people have texted me in the last 24 hours, and I was like, ha ha ha. And I've got some friends in the Midwest, and they were like, why are you going to Cleveland? I'm like, beggars can't be choosers. I love this country, so I'm excited to go to a place that I haven't seen. But Will, I'm very excited to meet. Well, I don't say meet, but I've been in the presence of Rick Pitino this year, and I will be in the presence of Tom Izzo this year, and I'm very, very excited for that.
You have a good gig, man. You're going out there as a podcaster. Last year, when I was in Memphis, it was 4 blocks between the Media Hotel and the arena, and FedEx Arena where the Grizzlies play. And that I beat a path between those 2 places. That's all I did. There was a little barbecue chicken place about a block and a half away from the Media Hotel that was always open till like 11. And I ate there, I think 3 times, but I spent every other second I had walking back and forth between the 2. I spent most of my time in the hotel wearing gym shorts and a t-shirt, writing story. I wrote like 9 stories in 3 days. And the Media Hotel was right on the Mississippi River. I never once saw the river. Everyone's like, oh yeah, how's Beale Street? How's the Mississippi? Like, never saw the river. I never went, even though it was right there. Never went to Beale Street. Never saw a blues band. Didn't do any of that stuff. I walked when I'm in Cleveland. I understand that our Media Hotel is about 10 blocks from the arena. It's going to be a 10-block walk. That's all I'm going to do.
So
while you're off having fun, going to the Hall of Fame Museum and getting your cocktails, I'm going to be typing away, wearing my gym shorts and my T-shirt, and being miserable in my little hotel room, wishing, man, I wish I'd have just gotten that geology degree.
Well, so I booked my buddy booked the hotel that's not affiliated with our business because he was like, I'm going. No kids. He's single. He makes good money. He's on spring break. And he was like, I'm going. And I was like, well, if you're going, like, I'm the media member. I was like, I'm getting on Southwest. I have enough points. Thank you, credit card debt. And I booked my flight. And I was like, I've never done the NCAA tournament. I've had the pleasure of coming to the women's tournament, but I was like, I am going. I am going to write because I'm trying to write more for our website. But if they win on Friday night, my buddy and I are going to Canton. So I'm sorry. Well,
you get free stuff like this. I got a Memphis Grizzlies cup when I was in Memphis last year because they just have these sitting in the media room. It's kind of cool, like little perks, like little bags of peanuts and stuff. Like you go to a UNM game, the fountain drinks don't even work half the time, but they give you cool stuff like this. Like, man, free bags of popcorn. Well, how cool is that?
Do you remember? I need to get to Sean Harrison, but do you remember when they renovated the pit and they used to have in the media workroom the I don't know what you call it, but it was like a bucket of water with Lobo dogs in it. When they were renovating the pit, and I hope Frank or Steve aren't watching because I've gotten on Frank's good side. But they had, and this is a million years ago, but they had I went in there and they had the boiling water, and I don't know what you call it. I'm an idiot. But somebody wrapped the hot dogs and they were sitting in the wrapping, the Wiener Schnitzel wrapping was sitting in the water. And I was like, I'm not Gordon Ramsay, but that's probably not right. And I remember
you ate it anyway, though, didn't you?
No, oh man, forget all the puns and all the jokes. I hate hot dogs. I got to go to Costco for that. But I was like, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. It was just, I thought that was funny. It was just sitting in the boiling water. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, my favorite memory from the renovation is during the state basketball tournament. Because remember, they had those big plastic tarps on the side of the building because they ripped out the walls.
Yeah.
And so that state tournament, the year they were doing it was miserably cold and windy. And there was a huge dust storm that night. And it would blow all that dust right through the plastic walls. And all of it, I remember I was covered in a Del Norte game on a Thursday night. And this huge cloud of dust just settled over. It was like a smoke cloud. And it just settled down onto the floor. And they had to come out and and somebody's mopping the floor afterwards. But yeah, that to me, I don't really remember a lot from I don't remember the Lobo dog disaster like you do, but that's the one thing I remember from the renovation.
I remember it being incredibly, because I think when you get on the pit floor when it's 15,000 like the UNLV game, you don't like, you want to get the hell out of there. It's so hot, and I don't know, and it's cold. It's February, it's March, and you're wearing you're wearing a coat, and I don't know where I'm going with that, but yeah, the floor gets hot. But I remember that year it was cold. So, Will, what time are you flying out on Wednesday?
Well, it's interesting because my wife, she works for a national nonprofit. She's in Belize this week, actually all last week too, during the state basketball tournament. So I had to leave my two teenage kids to fend for them. I basically got a bunch of Lobo dogs and I threw them on the floor so they could survive. But I'm flying out Wednesday, and it sucks because I'm going to leave my kids alone for 24 hours while they do that, and I'll be in there. It's weird because I have to actually go through, I think, Baltimore first. I have a connecting flight through Baltimore, and I backtrack into Cleveland. But yeah, I'll be there Wednesday. And my kid who goes to Eastern New Mexico, he's leaving East. He's going to ditch the last 2 weeks of school at Eastern to come up and help me take care of the other kids. So just a weird time in this household, man. It's like my dogs are running free. The kids are doing their own thing. My wife's off in Belize watching Selection Sunday, texting me angry texts about why the Lobos got seated so low. So it's, yeah, going to Cleveland is the least of my problems.
Well, I will see you in Cleveland. I'm on a 7:30 flight, and I don't like to fly, so I have to go. I think I used extra points, so I go to Midway, and then it's a hop, skip, and a jump from Chicago to Cleveland. But I've flown into Newark, where I flew to Phoenix, and Phoenix to Newark, and I hated my life.
Well, Thursday is a lot of fun though. The day before they play, because that's open practice. They have all the press conferences and everything. The mood is just super chill the day before they play. So that's where everyone comes in. You can ask them any question under the sun. They're all happy to be there, and then you get to watch them work out, and you get to check out an NBA arena. Like, well, now you think the people here love the Pit, and it is a special place, but when you walk into an NBA arena, you really get the idea, like, holy cow, this is what real money looks like. Because every seat is padded. The giant scoreboard's like big enough to fill a tennis court, hanging right over the floor. It's like, man, this is nice. This is definitely how the other half lives. So.
I've seen the Knicks lose in person, and the Garden is something else. And to be a media member there, that was the coolest thing I've probably done next to what I'm about to do this week, because this is checking it off the bucket list. I can't wait. Yeah, I was told Thursday, I know they do the media sessions, so I'm looking forward to it, and I'm glad you guys are going, and I'm glad I will see you there. So you can talk shit to me, and maybe we'll call Isaac and talk shit to him.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yes,
he's off chasing some stories, turning some tiny story into a huge one, just like that guy.
He's living the dream. I met his girlfriend. His girlfriend's gorgeous. He's tootling around downtown Philly. He's confident. He's arrogant. He beat cancer. I mean, no wonder.
A couple times, yeah.
Yeah, a couple times. I mean, he's living the dream. I should have sent him the link tonight and told him you were on, but we're all over the place. I told Sean Harrison I'd call him 15 minutes ago. Will Weber of the Santa Fe New Mexican. Will, I'm sorry. Thank you for putting up with my text messages. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate your time tonight.
Yeah, I'm actually doing a podcast from Cleveland. Maybe I'll have you in there on Thursday. We can do the first order.
I will happily join, but I'm letting you know I plan on writing, except for Saturday when I go to Canton. So that means the Lobos win. But Will Weber of the Santa Fe New Mexican. Will, thanks a lot.
Sure.
All right, that was once again Will Weber from the Santa Fe New Mexican. Quick commercial break, and I will call Sean Harrison here. Ed, are you surviving? Dude, Will's the best to talk to.
Yeah, you had a great. I didn't get a chance to comment on the pennants in the background, man. A lot of Montreal Expos, Philadelphia Phillies, Minnesota Twins, Chicago White Sox, old school stuff. So yeah, no, he's a great interview, no doubt.
Love talking to him, and we will be right back with Sean Harrison of the Logan Herald Journal. I have to apologize to him too. I'm apologizing to all our guests. Ed, thanks for joining me tonight too. And Then we will break down the game here in a bit, and I think George Scott's going to log on. My name is Ryan Tamori. This is the Pit Press Live.
cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
The Mania has started, and you'll find slam dunk savings and selection during our Hoop Mania event at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe. We're celebrating our 60th anniversary all year long, and that means buzzer-beating incentives and special dealer offers, like a new 24 Ford Bronco Big Bend Sasquatch, lease for $499 a month. Or a new Ford F-150, now $1,500 or 2.9% APR during this Hoop Mania event at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe.
I'm slacking tonight, man. I didn't hit the commercial break there quick enough. Hey, thanks to Will Weber and Tom Moser. And we are going to continue moving along this train. Try to get one of the beat writers on from one of the other three Mountain West teams on to talk about the NCAA tournament. And I am always appreciative of these two guys, Jason Turner and now Sean Harrison of the Herald Journal in Logan, Utah. He is the Utah State Aggies beat writer. Mr. Harrison, I'm going to tell you again, thank you very much. How are you doing tonight?
You bet. I'm doing well. I'm a little bit, I'm actually kind of unwinding a little bit. It's been a really busy couple of days trying to, get things together, get things planned to make a trip out to Lexington, Kentucky, of all places.
I was just about to ask you if you were heading to Lexington, Kentucky, and I've got my answer. Utah State was able to get a game in the tournament and then ran into the buzzsaw. I've used that word a lot tonight. That is Colorado State. I think Utah State, kind of much like UNM, had a very, very good first half of the season. They probably don't look like they should. Where do you find this Utah State team now, and how do you feel about the matchup against UCLA?
Yeah, they kind of find themselves. They have kind of struggled down the stretch here. Colorado State really steamrolled them quite bluntly, especially in Fort Collins towards the end of the regular season. And then, Utah State showed some fight in the last 8 or 9 minutes. They were already down 27, 28 points though. Kind of made it interesting in the semifinals of the Mountain West tournament. If they can show that kind of fight, maybe, hopefully they seem to be limping in a little bit. They've got a few guys that are a little, they haven't really advertised some of these injuries, but they've got a few guys that are playing a little banged up. Ian Martinez, and I kind of had a feeling that he is not 100%. They finally kind of come out and said that he's just not. They haven't disclosed exactly what's bugging him or what he's got going on, but he has not really seemed himself. I did talk to Ian on Sunday. He said that he'll be ready to go. He's a guy that shows up and just tries to score no matter what. But I don't know. Going against UCLA, I think. The first thought I have for me, I'm old enough that you hear UCLA, you're like, oh man, here we go, because they just were such an incredible, program over the years and still continue to be. They made a Final Four run not too long ago. But this team, what little bit I've been able to dive into, they've kind of struggled down the stretch themselves. They went 4-4. Now, obviously, they're playing a lot more difficult, Big Ten, a lot more difficult schedule, a lot more difficult teams. They've got some big wins. They've got a few head scratcher losses. They lost to New Mexico early in the season, and I'm not saying that's a head scratcher, but you look at that and you think, well, maybe they can compete. The interesting thing for Utah State is first-year head coach Jared Calhoun is actually really good friends good buddies with Mick Cronin, the head coach at UCLA. So, and they discuss a lot, talk a lot. So he is very familiar with UCLA. I don't know how it goes the other way. I would think that maybe he knows a little bit about Utah State, or knows a little bit about Coach Calhoun, knows how he coaches, because they, through the coaching tree, both were at one time with Bob Huggins at West Virginia. Not together, but they cross paths and they know each other. So long story short, I really think it should be a competitive game. I look at the original Las Vegas line. The first line that came out was 4.5 points. So, Las Vegas has given them some respect. I think it's went up to 5.5 now. So maybe a little action there. But I think they can compete, especially if the team that showed up the last 8 or 9 minutes in that semifinal game. I think they can compete with UCLA.
Yeah, I saw the line. I use a website called Sportsline. It's a part of the CBS Sports family, and they use Caesar Sportsbook. It's 5.5 right now. Utah State plus 5.5. Somebody I want to ask you about, because I think he still played really, really well, and he comes off the bench, is Drake Allen. They're going to need him Thursday night, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he's a kid. He was starting. He was a starter at the beginning of the year. Hurt him. I don't even know how he recovered from a broken. Not really. I guess it wasn't completely broken collarbone, separated shoulder. I don't know. They had a collarbone shoulder problem. They said he was going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. He missed 2 games. That's all he missed. Well, I guess he missed 3 games. He tried. I thought they brought him back way too fast. He tried to play a little bit in the game. Anyway, he recovered really fast, and he's a guy that is, since that happened, he's just been a guy that they've decided to bring off the bench. But he's a senior. He's a guy that has experience, has played at some different programs. They are going to need him. They're going to need Drake to play well and bring his experience. He hasn't really been to the NCAA tournament, so he doesn't have that kind of experience, but he's just a veteran guy that doesn't seem to get rattled too much. And they really need Drake Allen to show up and be ready to play on Thursday.
Let me ask you about the matchup zone. Did Utah State? It was really working well year.
Sean, I'm throwing it over to my co-host Ed. I'm sorry, we were talking over each other there. Ed, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry about that, Sean. Anyway, Utah State's matchup zone was the talk of the town. And then they lost a couple of games. Defensively, tell us where they are. Again, Utah State's had great success with Coach Calhoun, Coach Odom. They brought in new coaches and still had success. But talk a little bit about where they're at defensively, because, again, that matchup zone confused a lot of people early in the season. Then people started finding ways to take it apart. I thought New Mexico did a good job with a high ball screen and exploiting. And once Dan started rolling downhill, it was that matchup zone wasn't as effective. So talk a little bit about where Utah State is going in this UCLA game defensively.
Yeah, definitely. I think definitely the second time around in the Mountain West, especially the more elite teams, the higher up teams, they definitely kind of figured it out. And, the teams with better coaches and coaching staffs, to be quite honest, kind of figured out some ways to attack it. And then they tweaked it a little bit. They showed some more man against Air Force at the end of the regular season. And they're still messing around with it a little bit. It'll be interesting to see, because with UCLA, they were really hoping, okay, we'll get to the tournament. We get to the tournament, we'll face somebody that hasn't seen us, hasn't really had time to study us or know our defense. And then they get UCLA. And like I said, the coaches know each other really well. So I don't know how well UCLA will really know their defense, because this is not really exactly a defense that Calhoun has had per se. He's more of an offensive guy. And he brought in this Eric Hout that was at Northern Kentucky, which is where he had run this defense there. So it'll be interesting to see how I think they've tweaked it a little bit. They've done some more, they've pressed some teams full court a little bit to try to mix some things up, because they do have some really quick guards. I think Utah State's really, their strength is their guards. With Dayton Albury, Mason Falsov, Ian Martinez, Drake Allen, as we've mentioned, Jordy Barnes that comes off the bench. They got some really quick guys, but I don't know if you really try to press a UCLA kind of team. But yeah, I think they'll still use the matchup zone a little bit, but I think they're going to also play some more man, like you've seen kind of towards the end of the season, just because I think UCLA is going to be well aware of what Utah State is using.
Utah State shoots a lot of threes. They launch a lot of threes against they shoot quite a bit. Do you think going into the tournament that's a formula for success against UCLA.
Yeah, I think so. You know, they've you know, I don't know. I hate using the old cliche, live by the three, you know, live and die by the three, but they haven't exactly done that, but they don't have a great interior presence. You know, New Mexico obviously does. They do not. You know, Auburn, their 7-footer has had some big games, but it's been against teams that really haven't had a physical inside guy. I know that UCLA does. I mean, he's not as big. He's a 6'9" guy, Billadou. But I think they're gonna have to rely on some outside shooting. They're gonna have to work it around. You know, as long as they're sharing the ball, when they're a high assist team, when they're sharing the ball and getting their, you know, their average 17, 18 assists a game, they're very hard to beat because they move the ball so fast, and they need to get out and get running, which could be hard against the really good athletes that UCLA is going to have. But yeah, definitely the threes. I mean, the way they move the ball around and find people, you have to hit them. I mean, they've had some games where you know, the other night Colorado State was just on fire in the semifinals, and Utah State had some looks. They just didn't go down. I don't know a handful of shots that rimmed out on threes. So a lot of it's just whether they're on that game, whether the shots are dropping, but they will launch a high volume of threes, I would think.
Ed, do you have anything else?
I don't.
Perfect. Appreciate that. What I wanted to ask is the fact that you've had 4 head coaches in the last 6 years, and yet Utah State continues to find themselves in the first round of the tournament. What is in the water in Logan?
Well, you know, that's $1 million question. They've got a pretty good tradition here. I think the crowd, the fans really sell it. And whoever the coach is that comes here is able to show all the clips, show things, show the excitement, the backing that they have here. And I know that, you know, the Pit is an incredible place to play, but student section wise, when you got 3,500, 4,000 students that are showing up to every home game, and they have good seat, they put them behind the basket and then to the one side a little bit. You know, when you got a following like that, I think it is a selling point that they get some really good. They've been able to use the portal the last little bit to get some really good players, and they've had some really good in-state guys. Utah produces some really good basketball players, and they've been able to get a few of those guys to come here instead of go to BYU or Utah. I mean, Utah's kind of been up and down, but they've been able to get some guys in. A couple of kind of somewhat local, or one for sure local. Mason Falsov's a kid here from the Valley, but a few other kids that are not too far away to come here. And so they've gotten some good local talent, and then they've been able to mix it in with the portal. But I really think it's just the selling point of the fans and the support here. You know, basketball, I don't know, football's had its moments too, but basketball I think is really king here. And you can sell it on some kids. I mean, you talk to any of the kids that are on this year's team, that why they chose Utah State. Some of those kids had some offers from other places, and they all, the first thing they mention is the fans and the support. Now NIL and stuff, I know that they've really been working hard. That, you know, they can't compete with some of the bigger programs, but they're actually getting a pretty good collective here that's been pretty active in trying to get, you know, some money, and that's what it's turning into. I hate to see that, really, personally, but they've been able to get a collective together. I don't know what some of these guys are getting exactly. I haven't, you know, did a deep dive into that or anything, but I think that also helps a little bit. But I really think it's the atmosphere and the fans and the support has really been a big selling point to get these athletes and to get these coaches. You know, some of these coaches. Why would Jared Calhoun leave, you know, Ohio? I mean, well, Youngstown State, okay, it's a step up, but he probably would get other offers. He's got a lot of connections around. Why would he come east? Why would Ryan Odom, who was for sure an East Coast guy, who's at VCU now, why would he come all the way out here west? I mean, it's an opportunity to coach at a place that's got a pretty good reputation, that's got, you know, a good fan base that supports them. So I think that's really probably the biggest thing.
I will say this, and some of us were talking in the media workroom at the Pit post, I forgot what game, and Jeff Grammer had mentioned, you know, the Pit's cool, Viejas is cool, Moby has its moments, but I need to do it before they head to the Pac-12, because the spectrum, I don't know, it just looks like the fans are on top of you there. And you're kind of like that way at the Pit, but I'm not taking anything away from the Pit because I got to watch myself on my show because I'm too outspoken. But I don't know. I think the Spectrum Magic and the student section there do, man, because when I was in college, it was the show about 15, 16 years ago. And I got to give those student section at Spectrum. I think that's what college basketball is all about. I give them much props, and you kind of heard them on the TV. I think in Vegas. I was supposed to be there. Now I'm heading to beautiful Cleveland, Ohio, in less than 30 hours. But anyway, and you were talking about players, and I got to go back to I guess I got a man crush on Drake Allen because we had to meet him in Vegas, and he was a lot of fun to watch. Yeah, he's in a town in Eagle Mountain, which is southwest of Salt Lake City. So he's a Utah kid.
Nice. Yeah, exactly.
I have to do my due diligence and do a cliche media thing here. Who has the best chance to win out of the 4 teams in the tournament from the Mountain West?
Man, you know what? I think Colorado State. They are on such a roll right now. And that 12-5 seed that always seems to be the best upset picks from the first round. But I've watched Memphis a couple of times. I did watch most of their game against UAB on Sunday. Wasn't overly impressed, but if Colorado State continues to shoot like they're shooting from 3 and then getting, they're really tough to defend. I like them, but you know what? Really, Ryan, I think all the Mountain West teams really have a legit. I don't know. San Diego State's got a tough draw. Have to play North Carolina and then traveling somewhere else if they do win. I think that's kind of tough. I think San Diego State should be able to beat North Carolina. I don't think North Carolina is what they've been in the past, but that's always tough. But I like New Mexico too. I was just reading on before I came on a USA Today article, and I've read a couple others today that pretty much all of them are picking all the Mountain West teams to win their first game. This was picking, New Mexico over Marquette, that they like that. So I don't know. I'm not to answer your question. If I had to say one, I would say Colorado State probably, just because I feel like the way they're playing right now, the way that they ended the season. But I would, if I had a little extra money, I'd put some money down on Utah State and New Mexico to also, I really think Utah State, if they could pull it together, they have a good shot at beating UCLA as well. And I really like. I have actually watched Marquette a handful of times. Haven't been overly impressed with them. So I think if New Mexico can get back to the way they've been playing, I like their chances against Marquette. So anyway, long answer for
no. Why do you think I bugged you like 3 days in a row to come on the show? Because I knew it would be a good interview. Were you I'm kind of backtracking. When you saw the 10-7 line there for Utah State and UCLA, what was going through your mind? Because I thought, we covered UNM. I figured San Diego State was the 11 in the first 4. Colorado State was probably where I thought they would be, but you've just basically downgraded a team for winning 10 in a row and winning the Mountain West Conference the way they did. But when you saw the 10-7 matchup for Utah State, first impression.
Well, actually I was a little surprised, and more surprised because when I saw that New Mexico got a 10, I was thinking, well, maybe, there had been rumors that maybe they're going to have to go to the play-in game too, as well. Like last year when they sent 2 Mountain West teams to the play-in. And I was really hoping against that because I didn't want to have to try to sell that to my boss about trying to go to Dayton and then go wherever if they win. But no, when I saw that New Mexico was a 10, I got a little bit leery, thinking, well, maybe they're going to be an 11, or maybe, I don't think they'll slip to a 12, but and so I was a little shocked, I guess, at the 10-7 at that point. Going into it, I thought at 10, that's kind of what I was thinking was a 10. I thought that New Mexico would get maybe a 9, maybe even an 8. I don't know, things I'd read a little bit. So I was a little bit shocked with that. Personally, last year Utah State was an 8, got a good got a matchup, got a thing that worked out for them, and they got that win. It's good to get that first win, but then you got to play a top seed. So in some ways, if you want to really hope that your team makes a run, it's better to be down a little bit, 10 or 11 seed. If you can get by that first game, you have somewhat more of a winnable game in that second round. So. It shocked me a little bit, and mostly just because of where New Mexico was seated as a 10. I thought they would be at least a spot lower than New Mexico. So, But yeah, I'll take it. I'll take a 10. You know, I'll take that. It's better than it's better than an 8 or 9, really, in my opinion.
That's the way I felt and it's very funny because I'm wrong a lot. And I was at a bar, sports bar with buddies of mine watching the selection show, and I saw Marquette pop up as the 7 seed, and I slapped my buddy's hand and I said, shoulder, and I said, "It's going to be UNM." And sure enough, it wasn't Greg Gumbel-Sandley, it was Adam Zucker who had said New Mexico. So I was like, "Wow, hey, it was right." Lastly, Sean, go ahead.
Around here, a lot of people around here, you know, there was been a lot of rumors about BYU, with, you know, because they just haven't played Utah State in a while, and so a lot of people thought maybe they'd stick those two together. And when they popped up in Denver as a 6 seed, and that's after New Mexico had come out as a 10, everybody just started thinking, okay. I mean, I was invited. They had a little private watch party, but they did invite some of us media members to come to it. And the players were just, they were really thinking that's where they were going to be. But then VCU popped up. So that was kind of an interesting take there. I mean, it would have been nice in Denver. It would have been closer. A lot more fans could have been able to make the trip. But I think they'll take the 10. The 10's good.
Yes, because the committee send Fort C, Maryland to Seattle, VCU to Denver. They've sent Michigan to Denver, then they've sent Maryland to Seattle. I don't know. It's UNM's going to Cleveland. So make it make sense. And
well, yeah, it's crazy. Louisville, which is maybe an hour away from Lexington, is going to Lexington.
I really wonder if they don't look at where the locations are, if they just seed them. We've had Rocco Miller on, the bracketologist, and he said, well, they basically have the field set on Friday night. And I was like, well, I guess that makes sense. But yeah, I didn't realize that Louisville was in Lexington. So good for them. Then that's a game they can definitely win against Creighton. And it's basically home turf. Sean Harrison, Logan Herald Journal, excuse me. Last question for you, and I hope this is the best question you've got all year, covering Utah State. Is Jared Calhoun is Jared Calhoun the head coach at Utah State next year?
Oh man, that's another $1 million question. That's I would say, well, before the day started today, I would have said, yeah, sure. And I don't know, things can change all the time, but I had a cohort pointing out to me that he saw something on X. I still call it Twitter, but I actually called it X there. But anyway, mentioning his name for West Virginia. I mean, kind of a domino effect. If the West Virginia coach, which I can't think of who it is right now, if he goes to Indiana or Iowa, which I guess his name is rumored for both those places, then Calhoun definitely has a connection to West Virginia. He was an assistant there years ago when he first started out. So I don't know. It's just crazy. I never would have ever said that Danny Sprinkle a year ago, 1 year. I mean, I've never, especially at Utah State, 1 year at Utah State, and you're getting scooped up and offered, 3 times what you're getting paid after 1 year. I never would have dreamed that would happen. So after what happened last year, who knows? I really, my gut feeling thinks he'll stay here. I know they've been working on a new deal ever since their hot start. And I know that it's been kind of keeping it quiet. I don't know. I mean, right now would be a good time to announce an extension if they're really working, trying to get an extension after 1 year. But I know they want to try to raise some money. What they're paying Bronco Mendenhall as football coach. I mean, I don't know where they're getting that kind of money. But if they up his salary, he's got some young daughters. It was really, really hard. I've had a couple little heart-to-heart talks with Coach Calhoun. Really hard to uproot them from Ohio, from Youngstown, and bring them out here. And from what I tell, I know the oldest one has been playing in some AAU, or I don't know if it's AAU, but she's been playing in some of the local basketball leagues, girls basketball leagues. And I don't know, it's hard to say when the money comes and you get a big time offer to say no to it. But I kind of think you kind of get the feeling he wants to put down roots here, and I kind of tried to put his feet to the fire a little bit when he's first hired his opening press conference. I'll pat myself on the back a little bit. My first question was, well, are you going to last a year here? And he's like, what? And I go, well, we had Odom for 2 years. Before that, we had Craig Smith for 3 years. We had Odom for 2 years. And we had Sprinkle for 1 year. Are you even going to make it a full year here? It kind of got a chuckle, got a laugh. And he goes, oh, we're here. And it's the coach speak. But if I had to put some money down, I would say 75%, 75 to 25. He stays here, but there's still that. Before today, I would have said maybe even higher, maybe 90-10 he would stay. But when the rumblings start out there, and I think it was Jeff Goodman, I think, that started it, and he's been the soothsayer for a few other Aggie coaches that have left. And when he starts rumbling some of this stuff, he has connections with agents and different things. So who knows? I really don't want to be, to be honest with you, I don't want to be dealing with, last year, great year. They won their first game in the tournament, and since 2001, it was exciting. I'm at the airport after they lost to Purdue the second round, coming back, and all of a sudden things start going crazy. I'm cranking out a story at the airport, trying to catch a flight back to Salt Lake City, dealing with the coach that's just got announced at Washington, the day after losing in the second round to Purdue. So it's a nightmare. I hope I don't have to deal with that, but who knows?
I hope you don't have to deal with that. It's Sean Harrison of the Logan Utah Herald Journal. Safe travels to Lexington, and I always appreciate your time, Sean.
You bet. You too. Have a safe trip to Cleveland.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much for your time.
You bet. No problem. Anytime.
All right. That was Sean Harrison, the Logan Herald Journal. Quick break. We will be back, and then Jeff Gordon and Eric Malton will be joining us. We'll talk about our bracket, and then we will talk about the Lobos and give our thoughts on the 7-10 matchup with Marquette. This is the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori.
The Mania has started, and you'll find slam dunk savings and selection during our Hoop Mania event at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe. We're celebrating our 60th anniversary all year long, and that means buzzer-beating incentives and special dealer offers, like a new 24 Ford Bronco Big Bend Sasquatch, lease for $499 a month. Or a new Ford F-150, now $1,500 or 2.9% APR during this Hoop Mania event at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori. I'm going to throw this out there. Let me move this. I thought I did that before. There we go. Throw in your comments. Might do a show tomorrow. I'm on my way to Cleveland on Wednesday. But throw in your comments on YouTube or X what you think is going to happen to Marquette. I'm surprised we don't have as many people as we had watching last Sunday, but I guess everybody's still hungover from Vegas. I'm going to bring back Jeff Gordon to talk about our bracket challenge. I lost my track of thought there. All right, now I don't have to kick you off as fast. Jeff, how you doing? Thanks for joining.
Well, that's good. I'm doing better. I'm wearing sunglasses at night, so I can't complain because that's what we're giving away in our bracket challenge, Ryan, is some Oakleys, a pair of prescription Oakleys, and a free exam at KC Optical 2.
We appreciate that. And while you're wearing your sunglasses at night, don't masquerade with the guy in shades. Oh no. Here we go. I had to quote, I wear my sunglasses at night. If you go to ESPN and you type in groups, we're up to 35. That's in 24 hours. It is the Pit Press KC Optical 2 bracket challenge. And you can win a pair of Oakleys like that. I'm looking forward to it. We're in it. So try to beat us, even though we're probably not, you can find the link on the website. Go to the pitpressnm.com. It is there. Or go to ESPN. Probably easier to go to our website. It is on there. It's on the top left. And you know what? While I've got you on, let me share my screen to our beautiful website that I'm trying to write more for.
Yes. And we have the link on there, and we have the link on kcoptical2.com as well.
And then if you click that,
more page views for you.
Well, we appreciate that. What do you make of the Lobos season thus far, Mr. Gordon?
I'm pretty excited. I am shocked that they did not get ranked throughout this entire season. And I kind of like that they are kind of flying under the radar going into this tournament. I think in years past, and I've been a Lobos fan since I moved here from Denver, like 2003, that flying under the radar may be the way to go. Like, we always kind of get our hopes up as Lobos fans. And I think that this year they can shock some people because this is the best team they've had in a really, really long time.
I think a lot of people are in agreement there. You can hang on, Jeff, hang out for a bit unless you got something else to do. I'm going to bring my business partner, Eric Maltman, on here, and we are going to discuss this matchup with Marquette. Ed, I'm going to throw the floor to you first because I have been talking about this. I've been talking all night, and I want to give you your say. And I appreciate you sitting on the interviews with me. Thanks to Tom Moser, Sean Harrison, and Will. Will, we know Will. We love the conversation with Will, Ed. I'm sure you didn't mind that. But you were able to watch some Marquette highlights today. I want your thoughts right off the bat.
Eric sent those highlights when they played St. John's, and I was impressed with Cam Jones. He's a lefty, averages 19.3 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, has hit 63 threes on the season, shoots 31% from three. But the highlights I saw, he gets downhill, he gets to the paint, he can extend the defense, and he's a lefty. So he's 6'5", and we mentioned there's a point guard matchup, and I know Will Weber said True Washington will be guarding Cam Jones. Yeah, I know that. They won't guard each other. But I think it's going to be interesting to watch them both lead their teams. Or he's going to stretch the floor a little bit more than Dent does. But when I saw the highlights today, when he gets in the paint, he's lethal, man.
Our headset.
Yeah, there's some highlights there of him right there. But they've made 310 threes on the season. David Joplin 6'8", Stevie Mitchell 6'3", Chase Ross 6'5". They've got some size. Ben Gold is 6'11", averages 7.3 points per game. He's hit 53s. He can stretch the floor a little bit. So was I surprised Demesco got a 10? We said 8 to 10. I think we said that last time in our group text, the 8 to 10 that we thought that they would get. The loss to Boise, did it hurt him that bad? I don't know if it hurt him. Like I said, I don't think Demesco gets a lot of respect from the committee anyway. So I think it's a really good first-round matchup. What did you say this line was, Ryan? Marquette by 3.5?
3.5, yeah.
Yeah, I think New Mexico, but we mentioned this with Coach Moser. New Mexico, the guys that haven't, they were at 8 of 28. Borovichinen, Washington, Amzil. they've got to hit some shots. We know what Donovan Dent is going to do, the player of the year in the Mountain West Conference. Nelly Jr. Joseph, all Mountain West Conference on the first team, and then on the all defensive team. So we know what they're going to do. So other guys are going to have to hit some shots. I'm a little bit worried about Nolan with the hamstring, although he's had a week to recover and get treatment. And believe me, at the college level, they give you all kinds of different treatment. He gets treatment every day. So hopefully he'll be okay for that game. They're going to need him on the defensive end too. But I think Amzil, he's been shooting poorly lately. So I think they've got it. Hopefully this week off, him getting up shots will have done some good for him. It's going to be a good matchup, but I got to say, it always comes down to some coaching chess matches. And Shaka Smart's a good coach. Richard Pitino's a good coach. So how does Richard Pitino limit Cam Jones and his penetration? Washington has been a very good defensive guard all year long. So I think it's going to be a very good matchup, a good first round matchup. But I got to say, I think the strength of schedule that Marquette played, New Mexico did play, beat VCU, beat UCLA, and USC lost to Arizona State, and a bad loss to New Mexico State. But they pretty much rolled through the Mountain West till they hit the last part of their schedule. 2 straight losses to Boise State and San Diego State, and then they turned it around, and then a loss to Boise State in the tournament. But Boise State a little bit more hungry, needed it more than UNM did. We mentioned Marquette averages 76 points a game, UNM at 83. So those are, and Marquette limits their opponents to 68.5 points a game. So I think that's key too. And they stopped New Mexico from getting out and running, stealing the ball. That's what UNM plays best when they're playing downhill. So, they have to take care of the ball against New Mexico. So I think it's a great first round matchup, Ryan. I really do.
Eric, I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, I think you guys touched on a lot of good points already. Obviously, the one that stands out to me is Cam Jones. He was an All-American, chosen along Donovan Dent. They're a physical team. The Lobos early in the season, again, you guys touched on it earlier, have played in these physical games and games against San Diego State where they looked like they were the more physical team. They got that experience at Madison Square Garden against St. John's early in the year that might kind of play well as far as what they might experience playing in a tougher environment, much bigger arena, more pressure on them. But overall, looking at what Marquette brings to the field, they're very similar to UNM. They're very top heavy from a scoring perspective. Cam Jones is 33rd in the country right now in scoring. I think he's averaging like 19.3 points a game. And then you also look at their big 6'8" Joplin, who Ed was just talking about too. Joplin is kind of a stretch 4. He's 6'8". He's not very tall, but he's wide. So I think him being able to defend Nelly might, to me, I would probably give the edge to Nelly down low. But he defensively for the Lobos with defending Joplin, he can stretch the floor. He's second on their team right now in 3-point field goal makes, right behind Cam Jones. So that might be a tough matchup, having to extend Nelly out from the perimeter where he's not going to be able to protect the rim. And Marquette, they got some guys out on the perimeter who can shoot, but they're also really kind of highly effective for attacking the rim. They got some guards that can handle the ball, strong physical guards that can get to the basket. And one guy that isn't really being talked about enough is Stevie Mitchell. He's kind of like their X factor in a sense, and he reminds me a lot of True Washington in the style of play, because he's like I said, their third option, but he's their defensive catalyst. He's physical. He tends to guard the other team's best player. He's got a nice feel for his game. He can shoot the three, but he can also finish around the rim. So again, reminds me a lot of True Washington. He brings a lot of energy. So he's kind of like that style of player, and he's what makes this team go. In the Big East tournament, when they beat, I think the first 2 rounds, they were losing both games by double digits, and they ended up coming back. I think the one against, I can't say if it was against Providence or Xavier to get, they were done by 14 in that game. And Shaka Smart kind of credited Stevie Mitchell for kind of willing their team back into that game by hitting some big shots, but just the overall attitude and toughness that he kind of brings to this team, he's their it factor. And that's kind of what True Washington is to the Lobos. So that's what I'm going to look forward to, because I think that's the guy that's probably going to be guarding Donovan Dent. And in the column that I wrote earlier this week or over the weekend was, right now the Lobos are really top heavy from a scoring perspective. Like in the game against Boise State, Donovan Dent and Nelly combined for 60% of the Lobos overall scoring. True Washington, Amzil, and Philly B combined for 23 points. They were 8 for 31 shooting. That can't happen in a game of this stature. They need to get, I think those three players combined got to get to at least 30 to 35 points, just to kind of take some of the pressure off Donovan Dent, because Marquette's a real physical team. You know that they're going to key on Donovan Dent and really try to force the ball out of his hands, make it really challenging for him. And as we know, I mean, watching those games, when teams really key in on Donovan Dent and take him away, there's just not a whole lot of consistent scoring production from the other guys in order to carry them in a game like this. So I'm going to have to look to go at guys like True Washington to kind of elevate his game, really be looking to score, right? Like Amzil needs to shoot a little bit better, more consistently. The shot selection is a little bit worrisome. He just hasn't necessarily felt like he got his rhythm or touchback after coming back from that plantar fasciitis injury. So, I mean, it's gonna be a combined effort. And then again, I think the defense is gonna have to get a lot of stops. And we all know that this Lobos offense gets going when they start getting those stops, start creating havoc and turnovers, which lead to the offense and transition points. So, tough matchup, but I do think it's winnable. I think the Lobos match up pretty well. It's just we're going to have to get a more balanced scoring attack from just about everybody on the roster. And the game against Boise, Nolan was 0 for 3 from the field. I think he was pulled due to a lower body injury, didn't really get to see much of the floor or many minutes. But he's another guy I'm going to look to have to at least get some points going. He's one of the tougher guys. He's one of the more seasoned and veteran players on this squad. He's a leader. He was voted a captain for a reason. So overall, I think they match up well with this Marquette team. They're just going to have to bring it defensively, because they do tend to spread the floor. As you can see here, they got some shooters, but they're physical and like to get to the basket. So that's kind of my, in a nutshell, summary of what I have going on. And hopefully we'll get a few more kind of in-depth previews on the website. So if you haven't already, check it out at thepitpressnm.com. And please subscribe, because we're coming out with a newsletter probably here in the next month or so, trying to get you guys more coverage over the summer, and you'll get hit with the newsletter. It's free to sign up. So join the Pit Press family.
All right. I'll give my thoughts. And again, feel free to chime in on the old Twitter and X and YouTube for your thoughts and comments. And I'm having a tough time multitasking tonight. Sorry about that. I was going to go to Joe the Jeweler. If I hear y'all talk about the starters, I think if we were, once again, can't read. I hear y'all talking about all the starters. I think if we want to win, we will need production off the bench. I mentioned that earlier. 4 points against Boise State off the bench. That's absolute terrible. We can't only rely on the starters or just Danton and JJ. Side note, I love the matchup in the second round if we get there. Once again, I know you're kind of, what have you done for me lately? And it's true. How many teams has UNM beat that are in the tournament? San Diego State, Colorado State twice, UCLA, and Utah State, and that's it. Marquette
VCU?
Now they beat VCU. Thank you.
Yeah.
They beat VCU, and that was a pick game. This is the stretch that Marquette went on at the beginning of the year. They beat George Mason, who was very good in the A-10, by 19. They beat Maryland at Maryland. They beat Purdue. They beat Georgia. And then obviously haven't been St. John's. They beat Wisconsin. They lost to Dayton and Iowa State. That is a mother of a schedule. And just when I was being roped into taking UNM, the more I think about it, I don't know. and I'm going to get a lot of flack for it. And I got called by a friend, I'm a clown, and I have so much negativity. But as I've said, if this program wants to be taken real, you don't beat UCLA in November. You beat teams like Marquette here and now. And nobody in this town seems to get that. The Mountain West Championship is cool, but you didn't win the tournament. Look at what Duke did. Look at what St. John's did. They just not only won the tournament outright. They did not only just win the regular season outright, they won the tournament outright. And we went back to talking about how this team should have been ranked, and lo and behold, a not very good Wyoming team came in and nearly beat them. I think they have played pretty poorly down the stretch. And as I told a group of friends the other night, you just lost to the football school twice in about a month. I would love to see them beat Marquette because it's good for business. I think 3.5 might be too low. Probably should be 5.5. This team was really good, I thought, in January. I think they had been penalized through December, January, and February for not only losing to San Jose State on the road, but New Mexico State at home. I'm just not trying to be devil's advocate here nor there. Your body of work catches up with you probably this week. Just looking at that with Marquette, I didn't watch a whole heck of a lot Marquette this year. I did watch a lot of Big East. I watched a lot of UConn. I caught St. John's a lot. Seton Hall was like going to the dentist and pulling teeth without Novocaine. It was very, very painful to watch. But man, I'm getting a little nervous, especially with all the coach talk. And the Renaissance has been great. And as I mentioned, the UNLV game was awesome to catapult that and cap the season. While I do think the Mountain West is good, it's, and everybody was talking expletive about the ACC. I don't know. Can UNM beat Duke? Even North Carolina, Louisville outright every night? Probably not. So Ed, I'm sorry with that negativity. I don't know, man. I was kind of on the UNM train, and I don't know if I am anymore. And Joe, it is March. We've seen it done. I was watching a video on Loyola Marymount from Loyola Chicago from 2018, and how they essentially, they beat Tennessee. Who did they beat? Tennessee, Miami at the buzzer, to get to that Final Four. It can happen. It's March. I don't know. This kind of scares me, but I think it's fascinating that they lost to Pitino, Richard Pitino in their last game, and they get Richard now, or excuse me, Rick Pitino. But I don't know if anybody has to piggyback off that, but I look at that, man, and it's kind of the same thing last year with Clemson. Everybody was upset that they were 11 seed and they were favorites, and you lost by 21. I've told a group of friends that if you want to shut me up, you win in this month and the next 2 weeks. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, well, it's hard to compare the last year's squad to losing to Clemson.
True.
Clemson was significantly bigger team when the Lobos were starting three guards essentially at 6'2" or smaller. I mean, now they're starting Phillip at 6'9", Nelly at 6'10". It's a much different team. They're much better defensively. And I think that's where this game is going to be won on the defensive side, being able to limit guys like Cam Jones, forcing Marquette to have someone else beat them. But then on the other side, the Lobos are going to have to find ways to score outside of Dent and Nelly. I think it's going to be a battle. And I think what's more fascinating than the Pitino back-to-back game for Marquette is the point guard matchup. I mean, I think that's the one topic that's being talked about nationally with Dent and Cam Jones, two All-American point guards who are being highly regarded as NBA guards someday. And we've seen Donovan Dent at his best, and he was getting criticized on some of the national outlets like the Field of 68 on CBS Sports Network. I've kind of been watching some of that stuff religiously lately, and they alluded to the fact that Donovan Dent just couldn't really get anything going last season. And the same with Jalen House. They just couldn't get anything going offensively for the Lobos, and they struggled with Clemson's size. But it's a different team this year, and I think they match up differently with Clemson than they do with Marquette. But to me, it's going to come down to who's going to be able to defend better, who's going to be able to create more turnovers, who's going to rebound more. The games that they lost against Boise State, you were just talking about it, Ryan. They got out rebounded in both those games. The game that they demolished San Diego State at the Pit, they out rebounded them by almost 20 rebounds. So,
Yep.
I mean, you talk about things like that, the hustle stats, like that's where you're going to get an edge in these games. So I don't know. I don't know if I agree with all your points there, but like you guys were talking earlier, I don't think we were all set to agree on everything on this show, but I think I would give the Lobos a much better shot than what you're giving them.
I have to go to Jeffrey because he said he had to hop off. You can plug the bracket man again, and any final thoughts you have?
Yeah, so I think that I'm going to say the Lobos do beat Marquette, and for the first time in a lot of our lifetimes, or the first time ever, I don't know, I got to look at it again. I think the Lobos will make it to the Sweet 16 this year. That'll be my bold prediction, but I am going to plug the bracket challenge one more time. You can win some Oakleys like this. Go to KCOptical2.com. KC Optical 2 on the corner of Moon and Manal. Dr. Drew Casey is our doctor. You can also go to pitpress.com, find that link. Win some free Oakleys, win some prescription lenses and a free exam. Link's still open until the tournament starts. So hope to see you guys on there, compete against us. But thanks for having me on, guys.
Jeffrey, thanks for joining us. Before you go, how many people do we have now? Oh, wonderful. ESPN's not loading up. Jeff, thanks for joining us. I'll give that shout out later. And you look good, Corey Hart. Appreciate it. All right. Appreciate Jeff Gordon joining us there and plugging that. Much appreciated. Ed, I don't know if you have any rebuttal to what I said or what Eric said.
I think the concern, again, I think I think Eric makes a good point about New Mexico last year. This isn't the same team. And Coach Pitino, I've said this before, said in the offseason, he wanted to get stronger, longer. They did. He wanted to upgrade the schedule. He did. They beat VCU. They beat UCLA. They beat USC. They did lose to Arizona State and New Mexico State. Some bad losses there. But are we, and I think looking ahead at the whole thing, and my wife tells me this all the time because I'll say, well, Coach Pitino may leave, Donovan Dent may leave. And all she says to me, and she's right, is that enjoy the moment. We can't control that. And I want to enjoy this. I want to enjoy where they're at now. I'm glad I'll be in Silver City this weekend, but the games I have will end hopefully in time for me to get to go watch the game at the hotel room, which I definitely plan on doing. So, I think one thing that concerns me, to your point, Ryan, about the physicality of the Big East schedule Marquette played. And I think that's a legitimate point. I do. And those highlights you were just showing, Eric, of Stevie Mitchell. Hey, man, that dude is good, man. They're 10.9 points a game. Once he gets rolling downhill, he's a pretty good player. So
yeah, he doesn't get enough credit either.
No.
Because it's all on Cam Jones. He's not talked about. So
10.9
pay attention
points
to that matchup.
29 threes on the year, 73% free throw shooter, and 4.1 rebounds. That's the first look I've really had at him. But I love my Lobos, man. But I'm going to tell you the truth about them too. I think this is a matchup that they can definitely win. Now, Ned James said that he talked to Nelly Jr. Joseph. He sent me a text and said that Nelly said they needed that loss to get ready for the NCAA tournament. Now, I've heard a lot of things online like it's better that they lost. They need to get rest, things like that. I coached, I played. I was never a guy that said, hey, man, that's good. We need to rest. I was never that guy. Eric, you won a championship with Capital in 2004. I'm sure you guys weren't thinking that down the stretch, like it's better that we lose or, anything like that. Every game you wanted to win. They didn't win against Boise State, but I still think all things considered from last year to this year, they're better. They're a better team. And here's their chance to prove it right now. Now, they've had, the last couple of games weren't great performances by other players. We've said that Washington has to play better. Amzil's a big key. That shoots a lot of threes from the corner. And once in a while he'll hit one and he'll get rolling, shoot the arrow or whatever he does. Hopefully the week off has let his foot heal. When that plantar fasciitis is very painful. Hopefully Nolan's okay with the hamstring. They're going to need all hands on deck. It is a tough first round matchup. I don't think there's any question about it, but I want to give them more. I'll come in here and analyze and criticize. You know what? I want to give the Lobos credit for the season they had. Coach Pitino, the coach of the year in the Mountain West Conference, Dent, the player of the year. Hey, I think sometimes I don't give them enough props and I criticize too much. So I want to give them props for that. Now, it's a tough first round matchup. They've had struggles with Big East teams in the tournament before. That's true. But I think it's a game that they can definitely win. Eric, you mentioned all the reasons why, that they can win. And again, those other guys have to show up. Bordovichinen has to show up. True has to show up. Amzil. They even, hey, look, we didn't even mention this. They played a Tiki off the bench. He hadn't been very effective. He got two rim dunks the other night. I don't know if they'll play him on Friday. They hadn't played him very much. They're going to need Milicevic to show up too. And I think Will Weber made a good point. Since Amzil's come back, he's been kind of regulated back to the bench and not his role that he was playing when Amzil was hurt. So they're going to need all hands on deck. But I think it's a game that they can win.
You ready for this stat, Ed? And it's really hard to just think about with how good of a season that True Washington had defensively. He had 67 steals on the season, right, in the Mountain West. That's pretty good, right?
Yes.
Stevie Mitchell, 77 in the Big East. His steal rate is he averages 5 steals a game, which ranks 10th nationally.
Wow.
Physical dude. Like I said, he plays like True Washington. So just a matchup to focus on because he's going to be on Dent. That they're going to key on trying to take him away. So like now's the time for the other guys to step up. Now's the guys for like you just mentioned, Milicevic, True Washington, Philly B, Nolan. Those guys got to get going because they're going to key on Dent. You're going to go after their best player, just like the Lobos are going to key on Cam Jones.
I want to go back to Bordovichinen, and that fake that he does is so fundamental, man. How many players have fallen for that fake? Head and shoulder fake. They fly by. He's had clean looks. He's lined up some shots. He's just got to hit them. He's got to hit them. Yeah, it's nothing. The defense isn't stopping him. He's stopping himself. But I got to say that as a shooter, he's lining up he's got his shoulders squared. Everything's good mechanically. He's just not making it. So hopefully, they're getting shots up in practice, I'm sure. And the moment going to be too big for some of these players that are playing in the NCAA tournament. That might help. Amzil, his second year, and Nelly Jr. Joseph, I think they got in with Iona, Dance, Washington, returning back to the tournament. That tournament experience should help. But I'm telling you, man, Marquette is a tough team, and it's going to be a tough matchup. There's no doubt about it. Big East schedule that they played, and Ryan mentioned some of the teams that they beating Georgia, beating Wisconsin. They played Xavier, Seton Hall, St. John's. They played St. John's and only lost to them by 2. And I thought New Mexico played them early in the season in Madison Square Garden. Ryan, you were at the game. And I thought New Mexico struggled with the athleticism of St. John's. But that was a long time ago, and I think New Mexico's improved by leaps. That was actually a game that I think True played pretty well, if I'm right. Or Nolan.
Nolan
played pretty
Nolan
well.
did, yeah.
Nolan played pretty well. So they're going to need him. Again, the hamstring. Heck, I've had a hammy. Eric, you playing baseball. You've had hammies. Ryan, you played baseball a little bit. You've had hammies. They take hopefully it's not torn. It's just a tweak.
No, I didn't hurt a hamstring. I took a ground ball to the nuts.
Okay. Well, that too, but those hammies can be a little, hopefully it's not pulled. If it's pulled, he's limited, but if it's just a strain, he should be okay with the week. Coach Pitino said he told Will Weber he feels good and he should be ready to go. And they're going to need all hands on deck, man. They really are. This is going to be a tough matchup. There's no doubt. And, Jeff was confident about them going to the second round. Hell, let's just take care of business first on Friday.
Well, I saw this stat, and I don't know if it's true. I took a picture of it earlier. Just 8 of the last 80 teams to make the Final Four had a 19-plus point score on their roster. Here are some of the top 11 seeded teams that have a 19-plus points per game score. Wisconsin, Purdue, Memphis, Creighton, Drake, Texas. That Johnson kid from Texas is good. UNM and Marquette. So you got Cam Johnson and Donovan Dent.
Yeah. Hey Ed,
Eight
I want
of
to
the last 80 teams to make the Final Four.
I want to pick your brain on something, and maybe you guys covered it earlier. I just have missed it. But with Amzil, right? Like, I don't think we've seen him come true to form since coming back from the from sitting out a few games. I think he's kind of lost his edge a little bit. Maybe not completely on him, but really pointing to like the shot selection. Right? It's a mixture of shooting some threes, maybe forcing up a little bit too much, a little trigger happy, but then him backing down in the post, where I don't feel like he's as comfortable of that type of player. He's capable of doing it, but in a game like this where you're going to have someone that's guarding him that's going to be somewhat of the same size, maybe a little bit stronger, I don't know if that's going to be as effective. What do you look to from Amzil in this game? I don't think, I mean, he was 4 of 16 in the game against Boise State. Did not have
4 of 13.
4 of 13. He hit those 2 threes early, but it was like first 5 minutes of the game and then nothing after that. I think he's got to be more effective, or he's got to find a way to become a distributor, or maybe focus on the defensive side. I mean, I mentioned it earlier, right? Amzil, True, and Borovichinen combined 8 for 31 shooting. Is that a byproduct of shot selection, or is it just shots aren't falling?
I'd say more shots aren't. If you I used to launch him from 2025, and his misses are back iron, so they're online. And whenever I miss like that off my fingers, I'd say, hey, that feels good. He might be overshooting a little bit, but I think shot selection that he's shot have been shots he can make. Once in a while, though, he'll drive us crazy because then he'll try to back in. He's not a post guy. Once in a while, he'll get a little jump hook, a turnaround, or a follow. He's not a guy that has a lot of tools inside the paint, a turn and face, a jump hook, a drop step. Once in a while, he'll get that. He's been, when he's going good, he's been an effective player. He takes a lot of heat from Lobo fans. He does. We've given him some heat on our group text, but I also think when he's playing well, New Mexico does much better. They need him. They really do. Now, a lot of people are saying, why didn't they get him out of the game, last game? Well, who's going to go in for him to guard Degenhardt? Milicevic wasn't going to do it. They're not going to put a Tiki in there with Nelly Jr. Joseph. Coach Pitino already said that. They asked him at the beginning of the year, would you ever play Tiki and Nelly together? He said no, and he never did. So he's limited in options. So they really need him. So back to your question, Eric, I just think the shots aren't falling. And I said that about Philly B. Now, I thought True started when True hunts for his own shot and tries to be that creator. I think that's a problem. He plays better with him and Dent are playing in a tandem, which they had done very well. When the Lobos were on that winning streak, True and Donnie knew each other so well that True would get him the ball, or Donnie would get True the ball exactly where he needed it, and then True, instead of shooting it, sometimes gave it back to Donnie, or he found somebody open. When he hunts for his own shot or tries to be that creator, he's not a great creator. He can drive to the basket and finish a little bit, but he's not Donnie. So I think to your point, I just think for Amzil, I don't think it's shot selection. Sometimes he throws up a few bad ones, but the ones I've seen have been back iron misses. Whenever I see back iron, I'm like, okay, those are right there. Maybe he's just overshooting a little bit. So I think the first couple of minutes, but to your point, Eric, I don't think this is a game where he's going to back anybody down to the paint, man. I don't think so. These dudes are physical, man. Remember who they played. Look at the schedule Ryan mentioned. They played Big East schedule. They're not going to be. In fact, they probably want the game to get physical. I don't know if New Mexico is going to be wanting that, but they want the game to be. That's the style they play.
Yeah, well, I don't think we're taking any credit away from UNM either. I thought they were probably, if not the most physical team in the Mountain West, up there towards the top for sure. I mean, they had the best or the second best defensive rating right next to San Diego State. But focusing on the defensive side, I know that I was really harping on like Stevie Mitchell for Marquette and talked a little bit about True Washington, but I don't know. I like True being able to defend a guy, or maybe starting out on a guy like Cam Jones. Cam Jones might have a few inches on him. He's really lucid. He's smooth. He's unorthodox because they're both lefties, right? But he's got such a smooth jumper, and he pulls from deep, so he's really hard to defend. But I almost like putting Philly B and his length on him, and maybe giving him a dose of both True Washington and Philly B, or having Nelly come out and hedge a lot of the screens like they've been doing, because I think it's been effective at times. But I don't know where you feel the most appropriate defensive matchup would be on a guy like Cam Jones. But how do you think Patino approaches that?
I think you're right about both. I think, True. Remember what Coach Patino said at the beginning of the year. He thought True Washington had a chance to be the defensive player of the year. That's how much he thought of his defensive ability. So you start with him and give him a little dose of Philly B. But Philly B, someone's got to guard Stevie Mitchell too. So they've got some other matchups they got to worry about. But True, you definitely start True on him. But you're right, Eric. Lefties are hard to guard, and what I saw of Cam Jones in the highlights you sent, that dude is smooth, man. And he can stretch and get to the paint. He's long. He's 6'5". He can throw the lob. He's a heck of a player. And when he rolls downhill, he's even more trouble. So I think defensively, it's a big concern for UNM on Friday. But I think you start with the guy. You always say we dance with the ones that brung us here. And True defensively has brought the Lobos here. His defense has made a huge difference. And remember, UNM was 11-0 when he's in double figures. So, it's important that he has a good game on Friday defensively. And this is a different challenge. He's guarded a lot of tough guys in the Mountain West Conference. This guy is a step up as far as you mentioned. He's one of the leading scorers in the country, Cam Jones. So for True Washington, it's a little bit more of a challenge, I think, than some of the players he guarded in the Mountain West. No disrespect to some of the players there, but Cam Jones is a darn good player, man. So True's going to have his hands full, and if they put Philly B on him, he'll have his hands full too.
Yeah, and I will wrap up with this because I know Ryan probably wants to get going, but it's March.
Oh no, I still have things more to say.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just
No, go ahead.
last thought then on that is it's March, and it doesn't matter who you're playing. Every team's going to be good or great, and you're going to have to play your best game no matter what. If the Lobos want to get to the Sweet 16, I think it's going to be extremely challenging, not only beating Marquette, but potentially getting like a Michigan State in the second round, who's playing like a top 10 team in the country right now. Like they're straight legit. And Coach Izzo is one of the best coaches in the country. I mean, it would be a fun matchup to watch. Don't get me wrong, but it's a gauntlet, right? It's tough to get there. And I think the Lobos are equipped and have the bodies and have the personalities and the willingness to get there. They're just going to have to find a way to pull it together, and they're going to have to find a way to make buckets. It's the name of the game.
So Marquette shoots 44% from the field per game. And what do they rebound? Because that is the key in March. How many rebounds do they have a game? 34. And UNM was out-rebounded by Boise State 39-31, 38-31. And
Yeah,
UNM,
it was like 10, close to 10.
yeah, and they get 39 rebounds a game. My gut there, again, I like the team that rebounds more. I do. So now that I see that, but again, that's schedule for Marquette. Now I know they have not played well down the stretch.
They're not a team that's like gonna explode offensively. They have some willing and able scorers. I think it's top heavy, but if they have an off night, I mean, that could very well happen too. The Lobos defense, one of the best defenses in the country. Like analytically speaking, it's possible. But yeah, I think there's a few guys they got a key on, and you're right, rebounding is a big piece of that.
I got to ask you guys this: who do you know that are famous Marquette alumni?
The Mr. Dwayne Wade.
Yeah.
And the one and only Mr. Chris. All right. Chris Farley, Dwayne Wade, Doc Rivers, and Jimmy
Didn't know
Butler.
about Doc Rivers.
Yeah, Doc Rivers.
I knew about
About Doc
Butler's
Rivers.
another one.
Jimmy Butler.
Al McGuire, but that was a long time ago.
Oh, and Joseph McCarthy, anti-communism.
Oh man,
McCarthyism.
Tail Gunner
He's a-
Joe.
that-
Oh
that I
yeah.
did not. Yeah, that I did not. Joe Joseph McCarthy was a
Oh
Marquette
man.
alumni.
Oof. Yeah.
So one of my favorite comedians of all time, and one of the craziest politicians of all time. All right. I am going to Cleveland, Ohio to cover the tournament. And, maybe if UNM does win, I will get to see them probably play Michigan State. But as many people bring up, Michigan State either goes on a run or they get beat. Think about 2016, Middle Tennessee State. Go to our bracket challenge at thepitpressnm.com. Go to ESPN. It's the Pit Press Casey Optical 2 bracket challenge. You can find it. We will repost it over the next 48 hours. And then it closes at 10:15 Mountain Time, 12:15 Eastern. And it's my favorite time to go to the comments because I've got one directed at me. Marquette is going to key in on Dent and Nelly, so Lobos need to make 3-pointers as Nolan and Applehands need more playing time. I think CJ Nolan's got to step up, but man, Ed, you mentioned it, the hamstring that lingers. Raynard Ford again. Marquette is going to key in on Marquette. That just did that right as I clicked that. Marquette B-ball alum Bo Ellis and Butch Lee. And then John Romero, beloved legendary Marquette basketball coach. Al McGuire will be rolling in his grave when the Lobos beat them on Friday. I think he'd roll in their I think he'd roll in their grave if they lost. How's that? And here you go. You guys are gonna love this one. Ray Montoya, Ryan, you show no respect for the Lobos or us fans. You flip on a dime. Call me John Kerry. Look, dropping bars. Too much East Coast bias. What's with the Menschuk? Well, you kind of made your own point in that, being that I got New Jersey roots. Kind of love San Diego State making a run. And as if you've watched the show repeatedly, my favorite player is Tony Gwynn. So there's your East Coast bias. And I'm going to say it again. The 1986 Mets are the greatest baseball team of all time. Pump them up with cocaine and booze, and they will beat any team in history. Joe the Jeweler, I read it. Do appreciate everybody watching. We're not here without you guys. John Romero again on there. Oh, yeah. You're talking about your Oakleys. Dean Thomas and James Evans, UNLV transfer portal. Yes, that's big. Nick Davidson, too, from Nevada.
Obi Agnew from Wyoming too.
Oh yeah. He's a baller to watch. Defecator Droid. I love the name. Spartans have nice matchups going deep. To J-Rod, what do you guys think about San Jose State in the NIT? I was more concerned with getting booked to Cleveland yesterday and talking to some friends around the country. My friend Junfu Han that I worked with at the Daily Lobo is a award-winning photographer for the Detroit Free Press. I've mentioned him. I probably might have him on the show if he has time. He lives in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and he covers Michigan athletics, Michigan State athletics, the Pistons, the Tigers, the Lions, Bears, oh my, and the Red Wings. He's a phenomenal photographer. He really is. I know he's a friend, but he's damn good. Was talking to him last night, and he gets to do basically what he wants to shoot. So he said, the hell with Denver and Michigan and UC San Diego. He's driving down from Detroit, Ann Arbor to Cleveland to shoot the Michigan State Bryant game and then see his alma mater UNM play. So he's very excited. I think it is I don't know. It's cool. It's going to be cool to be there for Michigan State. Lost my train of thought there. Go ahead and mention Tim Miles for like the 12th time. I don't get that, but Tim Miles is a hell of a coach, and I liked him at Colorado State. David Fresquez, Weber, we need to get you a Gloom banner. Defecator Droid again. I just love your name, man. I love the droid from the Phantom Menace. God, what are those? Not droid Decars. Those are the things that rolled out. Anyway, I'm nerding out. No to Alfred. Albuquerque read that book already. Christina P can't wait to win some Oakleys. Any final thoughts before we get out of here? I'm running on fumes. It is the best point guard matchup in the first round between Cam Jones and Donovan Dent. And I will say this, it is fantastic. I think the love that Donovan Dent gets. Also, what is a trend in winning in the NCAA tournament?
Good point guard play.
Art guard play. So Dent does have that capability. I'm wondering if they do win a game or two, if he absolutely takes over.
I've seen it happen before.
Yeah, I mean, if they can, if he absolutely takes over and has a game of a lifetime, which you've seen happen in the tournament, I get that. I can totally see that happening. It's just Marquette beat the cellar dwellers of the Big East. They lost to UConn. They lost to St. John's. I get that, but that schedule at the beginning of the season, holy moly, I did not know that. But it's not like UNM played any slouches either. VCU was a good team. St. John's was a good team, and that was one of the games that I off the air kind of rip on Amzil a lot. But he played really well against St. John's. He kept them in that game. He had a couple. I think he hit 4 or 6 3-pointers. He was in that. He kept them in that game. And again, I know it is March. Anything can happen.
There are a lot of analysts too that are really high on VCU over BYU. Which
are there?
Yeah, I've heard it a couple times today. Like I told you, I was locked in on CBS Sports and Fox Sports pretty much all day, and they were talking about VCU and BYU being a really hot matchup. And then they talked a lot about Cam Jones and Donovan Dent being the most exciting point guard matchup. And then just potential upset picks. I think everyone's kind of the UC San Diego. That's the hot pick for the set. They're tough, man. They wouldn't say they played in a tough conference, but UC Irvine was a really good team this year too. That was kind of a fun championship game to watch out west. I know, Ryan, you guys are big fans.
I love it. I love all those small schools.
But yeah, man, this is my favorite sports time of the year. Bigger than the Super Bowl, bigger than the World Series. I know I was a big World Series guy a long time ago, but there's nothing better than March Madness, man.
That's true.
No, it's turned into my favorite week of the year. I love Selection Sunday and that. And I used to think, I still love Super Bowl Sunday. I think the NFL's kind of messed it up. And then, when you have a I like Yale, man. Those smart kids. Yeah, it's turning my favorite time of year. Ed, I will let you finish. Any final thoughts?
No, you know what? I thought you had some great guests tonight. I really did. I always like talking to Coach Moser.
He's the best.
Will Weber, the guy from the Herald in Utah, Eric Moulton. Eric's got some great thoughts. Unfortunately, my son couldn't join tonight. My son is he will research and research, and he's always ready, but he just couldn't come on tonight. But I thought it was a great show. I really did.
Eric, do you want to plug the website and the bracket challenge?
Yeah, why don't you pull it up again if you still have it up? But we have the website. Well, on our website, you can find the link there. It's thepitpressnm.com. Top ribbon, you can actually click the 2025 bracket challenge. Really happy to partner with KC Optical too. We had Jeffrey on tonight. He's one of their marketing managers there, and they were generous enough to donate a sunglass prize package to us, the Oakleys with the exam, the frames, and prescription lenses. I think overall it's like a $700 to $800 value. So it's nice to actually put together a challenge where we have like a really nice prize at the end of it. And I don't know, I checked like midday on how many people we had signed up. I think it's approaching 50 people so far. I'm in there. I haven't filled out my bracket all the way yet, but it's free. Check out our website. I know Ryan's been writing a lot. I've written a little bit too. We're trying to cover as much as we can. We're also going to be kind of developing a subscription to our website, to a newsletter, just to kind of reshare our live streams, podcasts. We're plugging Ed's kind of Lobo Legend series. If you haven't listened to it yet, we just had Lamont Long on, which was probably one of the most intriguing and interesting conversations we've had on the Lobo Legend series. But Ed, if you want to rattle down the names that you've been able to get on the Lobo Legend series, it's a really cool thing that I don't think a lot of people are fully aware of what we're doing, but I don't want to steal any of your thunder because that's kind of your doing. So I'm really appreciative for you kind of taking the lead on that.
No, it's we've had great guests: Marvin Johnson, Royce Olney, Kenny Thomas, Johnny Brown, Mike Winters, Petey Gibson, Phil Smith, Doris Gary, which I think Ryan got that guest, Clayton Shields, Lamont Long. So yeah, I'm very, very, very pleased.
Kenny.
I think I mentioned them, but yeah, I think very pleased with the guests we've been able to get on, and I got to tell you, everybody that we've asked or that I've asked has been and there's a couple of the guys that are waiting in the wings, man, that want to come on, and again, these are relationships that I had at Johnson that I spent way too much time there, got to know a lot of those guys personally, and Greg Brown was just about to come on with us before he passed away, and that's I know Greg from a long time, and rest in peace. Kelvin Scarborough would have come on, I guarantee it. Rest in peace. Daryl McGee would have come on. Rest in peace. So we've had a lot of great Lobos come on, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback from the interviews that Ryan and I have done. So I've had a lot of fun with that series because those guys, when watching them play at the Pit or even playing with them, and I never claimed to be on their level, they included me in their games. I was always proud of that. Man, they were some fantastic ball players. So yeah, it's been a great Lobo Legend series, and we're real proud of it.
No, we can't win the Oakleys. That would defeat the purpose. You're just competing against us. The person that is not affiliated with this site, even if they finish first, the person that's not affiliated with the site that has the best overall points will win the Oakleys. So no, we're very aware of that. UNM plays Marquette in the first round of the NCAA tournament on Friday, 7:25 Eastern, 5:25 Mountain. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to Thursday and Friday. I'm running on fumes, guys. I apologize, but I appreciate everybody. And as I have to thank our guests, Tom Moser, Coach Tom Moser, I always love having him on. I think he's got some of the best insight on the Mountain West. Sean Harrison from the Logan Herald Journal, Will Weber from the Santa Fe New Mexican, and see what I do in Cleveland. I'm going to try to do a show. I'm going to try to write more. I think I would probably have more time dedicated to that because at least if I can write, I can watch the other games. But I'll see what we'll do here. But I'm excited to make the trip. Being that Major League is one of my favorite sports movies, so that's very cool to me, even though they're not the Cleveland Indians.
Ryan, just one more thing real quick. I just want to tell everybody, please go to the Pit Press site or website and check out the articles that Eric and Ryan have written. They're great. I read them both. Every time you guys write something, I read it. And, you guys have done a great job writing. I want to write. I just haven't had the time. But, so please, if, the listeners go to our site and check out the articles that both these gentlemen have written. They're great in detail, in depth, quotes, everything, pictures, everything you'd want in a story.
That's what I went to school for. You think I would hope to know how to do it. All right, everybody enjoy the NCAA tournament. We'll keep you posted on what we're doing. And again, I will be in Cleveland with coverage of UNM and Marquette. And then if they win, a possible matchup against either Bryant or Michigan State. Can you imagine if UNM and Bryant win? Holy moly, then we're having a whole different conversation here. It could happen. Everybody enjoy the week, enjoy the first 4 games, and don't do anything that I would do. Have a good one.
The Mania has started, and you'll find slam dunk savings and selection during our Hoop Mania event at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe. We're celebrating our 60th anniversary all year long, and that means buzzer-beating incentives and special dealer offers, like a new 24 Ford Bronco Big Bend Sasquatch, lease for $499 a month. Or a new Ford F-150, now $1,500 or 2.9% APR during this Hoop Mania event at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe.
I thought it